The gun buyback program is an initiative of the mayor's Gang Reduction and Youth Development Office, but the LAPD and community groups are also involved. Well, from one collection event to another, this one comes in the form of polluted stormwater. A project is underway to receive, retain, and recycle the water that typically flows near LAX after a major storm. Gil Reyes has the details. Gil.
That's right, Yana. That water treatment project you're talking about will actually be built some 50 feet below ground from where I'm standing in this grassy field in Playa del Rey. And when it's finally completed, it's expected to save the city 100 million gallons of water on average per year. It usually doesn't rain in Southern California, but when it does, some of it winds up here in this field near LAX. As polluted stormwater contaminated with airport toxins, the dirty water then flows into Santa Monica Bay, threatening sea life, not to mention us.
Today, that changes with this facility, a way for us to be able to clean that water before it goes to the sea and retain much of that water so that we can use it as well in this historic drought.
LA City leaders sign off on a $40 million water treatment project to be built below this land. It's expected to transport dirty stormwater either to the nearby Hyperion treatment plant, where it will be cleaned, then released to the ocean, or to the city's groundwater basin. That storage basin is expected to collect, on average, 100 million gallons of water per year.
And the community insisted this project got done. And this project found some champions who refused to take no for an answer.
After years of delays and red tape, city leaders and the federal government finally agree on a system in which the Bureau of Sanitation will operate the facility, while LAX's overseers, Los Angeles World Airports, will continue to own the land. Roughly 5 acres above ground will be turned into park space.
To be a leader in environmental sustainability, not only for the airport community, but in the nation.
And the expected completion date for the entire project, city officials say in about 4 years. In Playa del Rey, Gil Reyes for LA This Week. Yana, back to you in the studio.
Gil, thanks. And most of the project will be funded by Proposition O, a 2004 clean water bond measure authored by LA Mayor Eric Garcetti when he was a councilman. And as city and state leaders make a big push for water conservation, one homeowner is leading by example and is taking water-saving measures into her own resourceful hands.
The water comes in and is stored in this gray water tank here, and it's coming from the showers and the tub and the sinks and the washer, and then it's treated here. And once it's treated, it goes into a 200-gallon storage here in the ground.
Encino homeowner Janie Thompson is giving a tour of her gray water filtration system that she installed nearly 2 years ago. The system cleans water from her shower, tub, and washing machine and redirects that water to her yard. She said she's been able to cut her water use on her 1/3 acre property by half and still maintain her lush landscaping.
Everybody's able to do that. It's such a simple thing you can do, just connecting your washer out to your backyard. And it's legal.
City Council member Paul Koretz, state officials, and other environmental activists joined Jamie at her home to applaud her efforts and encourage other residents to keep watering their trees, even if they've already ripped out their lawns. Koretz said Angelinos must do everything they can to save our trees.
Trees keep the heat down in our neighborhoods. Trees sequester carbon dioxide and actually fight global warming. Trees clean and retain a huge amount of water and hold soil in place.
In an effort to protect the city's trees, Koretz recently introduced a slate of motions to City Council aimed at combating the drought by developing a plan to improve the health of LA's trees and by redirecting used water to the city's water treatment plants for recycling and reuse. Meanwhile, experts from Tree People had a few tips and suggestions for residents when watering their trees.
We need to make sure that we are doing that under the whole canopy of the tree, not just at the base of the tree, especially on the mature trees that we have. So put that water out. It's great to use a drip system like Janie has installed here. It lets the water soak in slowly and deeply, at least 18 inches.
Officials say with a little effort, you can still have your lush yard and save water at the same time. And this week, we begin a multi-part series on a new city initiative called CityLink LA, which officials say will transform Los Angeles into a technological hub of high-speed internet access for all. Medical student Sandra Reyes is studying to be a nursing assistant at the Concord Career College in North Hollywood. She spends most of her day online watching educational videos and reading. But when she has to study at home, Sandra hits a roadblock on the information superhighway. That's because with about 12 devices being used at her house at the same time, her internet connection simply isn't up to speed.
In a perfect case scenario, if my internet was fast and I didn't have to buffer, it would actually depend on whether I was going to sleep at 10 or I was going to sleep at 2 in the morning. Because I would have to wait until it buffers, and then still I have to retain all this information.
But city leaders are hoping to change all of that with a new initiative called CityLink LA. Launched by Mayor Eric Garcetti and Councilmember Bob Blumenfield in 2014, the effort seeks to provide affordable and reliable high-speed internet and Wi-Fi to all LA residents and businesses, regardless of income or neighborhood.
That would be amazing.
I would love it.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield says right now some underserved areas of the city don't have internet, creating a digital divide among more affluent neighborhoods which can afford high-speed internet. But he says CityLink LA will ensure everyone in LA is connected equally. He says high-speed broadband is not only good for LA, but critically necessary.
I want to make sure that we are that city, that premier city of the future, that we're going to be competitive, that our students are going to have the knowledge and information, that we're going to have the free flow of information, the goods movement, both physically and virtually, that are going to make our city a success and make all of our residents a success.
And in order to do that, the city plans to enter into a public-private partnership with one or multiple internet providers that would invest in laying the fiber optic cable and all of the groundwork for the project. In return, the city would provide city-owned property, offer reduced costs, and fast-track permits to streamline the process. All of that at no cost to the taxpayer. City officials say they went to great lengths to understand the needs of a potential vendor.
We think it's critical to increase the success of a project like this, to be able to have done our homework, to have learned what the best options are, and to make those options available so that we entice as many vendors as possible, regardless of who they are and where they're coming from, to be able to deliver an important project like this.
City leaders say they hope to have the public partnerships in place and break ground by next year. While the LA River may hold the key to LA's future growth and sustainability, LA Mayor Eric Garcetti is encouraging TV productions to take advantage of state tax credits, and Angelenos ditch four wheels for two during Bike Week LA. These stories in City Beat. The LA River is the next frontier. That's according to a new report by the LA Business Council Institute, an organization that seeks to strengthen and promote environmental and economic sustainability. The report was the focus of a recent sustainability summit. Held at the Getty Center, topics ranged from opportunities for new housing, economic growth, and sustainable development along the LA River. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti said that environmental sustainability is tied to urban sustainability. He said understanding that connection will help lead to future economic growth and sustainability in Los Angeles. And the LA River is a great starting point.
In many ways, that river is a prism for many of the values that we hold, and an opportunity, a platform for us to see greater transportation, health indicators, sustainability, urban ecology, open space, as well as economic development, too.
The mayor also talked about the recently released Sustainability City Plan, a comprehensive roadmap aimed at preparing LA for a sustainable future, both environmentally and economically. Metro and city leaders kicked off Bike Week LA last week to help folks gear up for Ciclavia, which takes place at the end of the month. Various bike-friendly activities were held, from free Metrolink train rides to bike safety education classes, all in an effort to encourage Angelenos to bike more often. One biker who takes the bus from Palos Verdes and then pedals to work downtown said his 2-hour commute is worth it.
We all work with stress in our lives, and my best days at work are the days when I pedal in. I've got the workout done, I come in, I'm calm, and it just makes for dealing with the rest of the day so much better.
It's about showing people about the possibilities when we not only educate ourselves about what is possible, but also making car drivers and other people aware that people are sharing the road with us.
More than $50 million in state tax credits are now available for new TV series, TV pilots, movies of the week, and miniseries. according to Mayor Eric Garcetti. In addition, more than $27 million in tax credits are available for Relocating TV series, a television series that filmed its most recent season outside of California, but is relocating to California because of the new tax credit. Mayor Eric Garcetti helped lead a statewide coalition to pass legislation tripling California's film and TV production tax credit to $1.65 billion over 5 years. The credit is expected to support 50,000 middle-class jobs. Downtown's Pershing Square will soon become a place the whole family can enjoy as city officials broke ground on 2 new children's playgrounds. That's the focus of This Week in Tweets. Los Angeles city leaders came together to break ground on what will be 2 brand new playgrounds for children at Pershing Square. LA area resident Belinda Jackson tweeted a pic of city leaders with shovels in hand, writing, "Breaking ground, 2 new play areas." Another photo tweeted by Jackson showed the Department of Recreation and Parks General Manager Michael Schull making remarks on the podium. Rec and Parks also tweeted a pic of Councilmember Jose Huizar on the podium, writing, "Pershing Square Playgrounds break ground." Another LA resident, Tom Nakanishi, posted a pic of a backhoe moving dirt at the location with downtown skyscrapers in the background. He posted, "Groundbreaking of Pershing Square Renew Playgrounds in downtown LA. Thanks, Jose Huizar." The council member posted his own pic, writing, "Breaking ground on new Pershing Square Playground with Rec and Parks, long-time improvements planned through 2050. The 2 new playgrounds will be designed for children ages 2 to 12 and will feature play structures that will promote physical strength and social play. And that's our This Week in Tweets. Enjoying a movie on a warm summer night, a new Harry Potter exhibit, and a retrospective on a rock and roll legend. All this in this week's Things to Do. With summer just around the corner, it's time for some outdoor movie nights. On select Saturdays, bring a picnic blanket and head over to the Autry South Lawn to watch classic movies projected in HD onto the largest outdoor movie screen on the West Coast. On Saturday, May 23rd, you can catch the coming-of-age film Almost Famous, starring Kate Hudson. Some of the city's tastiest food trucks and local bands will be on hand, plus every event is dog-friendly. Select museum galleries will also be open from 5:30 to 8 p.m. The Autry in Griffith Park is located at 4700 Western Heritage Way. As space is limited, reservations are recommended. For more information, visit theautry.org/programs. Harry Potter's legendary wizardry lives on at the Hollywood Museum. The museum's new collection of sorcery goes on display May 22nd and includes acquisitions from the Harry Potter film franchise. Come see original wands, Harry Potter's robe, his ultimate broom, blueprints of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Spotlighted are new items from noted Harry Potter historian Christopher Knoll. The ultimate broom used by Harry Potter in the Sorcerer's Stone and his quill and ink bottle used while at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry enhance the exhibit. For more information, visit thehollywoodmuseum.com. And if you're a fan of rock and roll, check out the Bill Graham and the Rock and Roll Revolution exhibit at the Skirball Center. It's the first comprehensive retrospective about the life and career of the rock legend. Recognized as one of the most influential concert promoters in history, Graham launched the careers of countless rock and roll legends in the 60s at his famed Fillmore Auditorium. As a promoter and manager, he worked with the biggest names in rock, including the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Jimi Hendrix, Santana, Led Zeppelin, and the Rolling Stones. The exhibit is on display through October 11th at the Skirball Center, located at 2701 North Sepulveda Boulevard. For more details, visit skirball.com/exhibitions. And that's a look at some things to do. And finally this week, construction along Reseda Boulevard isn't over yet, but cyclists near Cal State Northridge are already praising the latest colorful safety upgrades. Gil Reyes shows us from Northridge.
The most vibrant renovation along this stretch of Reseda Boulevard in decades is also easing the fears of cyclists.
I actually rode my bike here today,
and I noticed a difference.
It's a 1-mile stretch of green and striped bike lane from Parthenia to Plummer Streets on Reseda near CSUN. And not your typical bike lane. This is the city's first bike protected lane. Cylindrical barriers and parked cars give cyclists layers of protection against moving cars.
And that buffer also gives this character and aesthetic a welcoming visual appeal, so as you drive through, you want to stop and walk and shop.
Northridge Councilman Mitchell Englander and pals have collaborated on the vision plan for 3 years. They've added new trees and paved stone sidewalks to enhance the strip. There's also bright yellow furniture outside stores, inviting passerbys to stop and relax.
People tend to park in the back, and we want to have a reason for clients and customers to walk along the sidewalk, to kind of sit and enjoy, and to visit businesses through their front door.
It's all part of Mayor Garcetti's Great Streets Initiative, a plan to beautify 15 busy streets to encourage more cycling, walking, and public space.
Students will come down from CSUN, ride their bike in the protected lane, come to Joyce's Coffee, and hang out on the sidewalk. We're soliciting feedback right now on how we can extend this project further up Reseda.
The city is offering money for good ideas, part of the push to make CSUN and Northridge a true bike and pedestrian-friendly college town. Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Again, your Great Streets idea could earn you cash. $10,000 for individuals with opportunities to make more in matching grants. Visit ioby.org/LA-great-streets to learn more. And that's going to do it for this edition of LA This Week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Yana Kay. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacitywiew.org, and you can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Don't worry, Patty. This isn't going to hurt me one bit. Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Shapiro in beautiful Encino, and you're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel. Open wide.
Good morning, everyone. Sergeants, can you... 2015. Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Blumenfield, Bonnet, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Weezer, Carrasco, Corey, LaBonge, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Wesson. 12 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Councilmember Buscaino moves. Mr. O'Farrell seconds. Next item.
Committed to resolutions for approval.
Councilmember Buscaino moves. Mr. LaBonge seconds.
Madam President, today is Tuesday, and now would be the time for the flag salute.
Everyone, please rise for our flag salute. Councilmember Bonin, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Everybody could put their hands over their heart, face the flag. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Madam President, do you wish to run through the agenda?
Yes, okay. If I can direct your attention to the agenda, Madam Clerk, let's run through the agenda first.
Items 1 through 3 are items noticed for public hearing. The Department of Building and Safety requests to continue item 1F to June 12th and reports that items G, H, and I may be received and filed inasmuch as the liens have been paid.
That is approved. I'm sorry, that is approved without objection.
And Madam President, there are cards on items 1, 2, and 3.
Members, any specials?
Madam President, item 4.
Item 4. Special for Mr. Price.
Items 5 and 6 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
Without objection, and any items, any cards?
Yes, cards on items 5 and 6.
Members, any specials? 5. Item 5 for Mr. Buscaino.
Madam President, that brings council to presentations or items called special.
Mr. Buscaino for presentations.
It's a presentation / item. Item 5, if we can take that first. Mr. Englander's not ready yet.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's take item 5 for Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Joseph. All right, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Let's hear it for our Public Works Bureau, ladies and gentlemen. Celebrating Public Works Week in the city of Los Angeles. And before we begin, Mr. LaBonge, I ask you to take a minute and think and imagine what Los Angeles would be if our toilets didn't flush, our trash didn't get picked up, stormwater did not drain into the ocean, no streets, no sidewalks, no bridges, no street lights, no inspectors to monitor private contractors, and no engineers to design public facilities. Simply put, cities across this country would not be possible without public works. National Public Works Week is a celebration of the tens of thousands of men and women in North America who provide and maintain the infrastructure and services collectively known as public works. The City of Los Angeles Department of Public Works is the city's third largest department and is responsible for the construction, renovation, and operation of city facilities and infrastructure. The department's 5 bureaus represented here before you, contract administration, engineering, sanitation, street lighting, and street services, build the city's streets, installs its sewers and public lights, and constructs storm drains, public buildings, right-of-ways, and services our facilities. Our public works employees truly are the unsung heroes of the city. Let's give all of our Public Works employees a round of applause. And quite frankly, it's so easy to take them for granted because we're so accustomed to the infrastructure they design, build, and maintain, and services they provide. I can speak to this firsthand because 3 months before I took this office, a street I used to use on a daily basis, Paseo del Mar, slid into the ocean. A huge landslide in San Pedro. I had never stopped to appreciate that street until it was no longer there. And I had to take, we all continue to take long detours around it today. We're going to fix that, right, guys? Yeah. All right, good. Our public works infrastructure and the employees that maintain it make Los Angeles livable. As chair of Public Works Committee, I want to thank the guidance and leadership of the members on this committee, Mr. Price and Mr. Cedillo. And on behalf of the entire City Council, I'd like to say thank you to the entire Bureau for their hard work, dedication, and passion to serve our residents. I want to thank the Board of Public Works. Here before us, President of the Public Works Commission, Commissioner Kevin James, Vice President Commissioner Monica Rodriguez, the President Pro Tem Matt Szabo, who is, Matt, you're CrossFit, you're a rock star in CrossFit. It's amazing what you and Anna over there in the mayor's office do. There you are. Commissioner Mike Davis, our new commissioner, Heather Repenning, our Director of Bureau of Street Services, Nazario Salceda, our city engineer, Gary Lee Moore, Director of Bureau of Sanitation, Enrique Carlos Ladivar. Is Enrique here? Is he Enrique? Enrique Carlos, there he is. The Director of Bureau of Street Lighting, Ed Abrahimian, and Inspector of Public Works, John Reamer. And most importantly, thank you to the thousands of hard-working men and women of the Department of Public Works who work tirelessly to make Los Angeles a great place to live. Here to speak on behalf of the entire Bureau is the Board Commission President, Kevin James.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for your leadership and the Public Works Committee for your leadership in the last year. We've had a very busy year at the Board of Public Works. We expect to have an even busier year in the fiscal year 2015-16. In fact, 5 of the 8 executive directives to date directly impact our board's governance. Of course, we have had a board member change recently with former Commissioner Barbara Romero accepting the position of Deputy Mayor of City Services. The entire board is very excited about Commissioner Romero's new position and with Greg Good's move to Executive Officer of City Services. And we are extremely pleased that the Mayor nominated and your council confirmed Heather Repenning to join our board. We also have a new Executive Officer for our board, and that is former Inspector General Fernando Campos. All 5 board members have worked closely with the Mayor's office and our bureaus on many key back-to-basics priorities. I've had the privilege of working closely with the Bureau of Street Services on the Pavement Preservation Program. Commissioner Rodriguez has worked with the Mayor's office in spearheading the city's Rain Barrel program, as well as with the Bureau of Street Lighting and other city departments on new technologies. Commissioner Szabo is the board's lead and the key point of contact on the city's current sidewalk repair plan through the Bureau of Engineering and has worked with our labor partners throughout Public Works on the many important issues that they have faced this year. Commissioner Davis has continued his work with the Bureau of Contract Administration on improving the Public Works procurement policies when it comes to advancing our business inclusion programs. And Commissioner Repenning is the board's lead and the mayor's Clean Streets Initiative, CSILA, through the Bureau of Sanitation. So thank you for this recognition this week. We look forward to a very busy year and for many years to come. Thank you, Council Member, and thank you to this honorable council.
All right. So with that, Madam President, if we can take the vote in celebration of Public Works Week here in the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you, Mr. Vizcaino. Mr. Labange?
I wanted to rise for Public Works and thank each and every one of you for the impact that you've made in Los Angeles. A couple of suggested members as I move on here in about 6 weeks. I think it's real important that the capital improvement booklet that is now, I don't know what, do we have one anymore, Gary? See, there used to be a playbook, members, that you could watch from year to year because you get lost. All of a sudden, it's 39 years, and you didn't get it every done. I'm going to put a motion in to recreate it. It could be done on the internet, right, Joe?
That's right.
Okay, it could be in space, but a capital improvement, which is the playbook, because all of a sudden you turn around and something's gone and it's not moving. And so I think it's good to have that. And also, Mr. Aberranian, I want to thank you. I know your number so well, 847-2020, 24 hours a day. And I hope the streets on Kenilworth Avenue between Marino up to Angus were turned on. Those lights were out of service there. And also, this is something real important I want the city legislative analysts to take note of because of motion. Saturday skills class. We have to integrate. I look at Mr. Good to give you something good to do, Mr. Good. Saturday skills class where you take young people and give them an opportunity to learn the public works trades at the time as interns or whatever you call them, so they know there's opportunity, not just in Los Angeles, but in all the 88 other cities in the county of Los Angeles and the state. It's a tremendous opportunity there that I just wanted to mention. Saturday skills class. At LA Unified, I went to Saturday skills class at 450 North Grand. Anybody know where 450 North Grand is?
Right here. Right?
Where is Joe? Exactly. That was school district headquarters.
Right down the street.
And I'm just saying that's an opportunity to teach people, whether it's out of Piper Tech or 1 Yard, and I'm looking for, someone to step up. Let's share the information there. And lastly, this is a little tougher, members, but if you look at the city regionally, there's 7 planning areas. There should be 7 members of the Board of Public Works. And cut your pie instead of 5, Mr. Mayor, cut it by 7. You know what, they give them any increase, figure it out, and have 7 commissioners for the 7 planning areas. So there's a tree that you can look at things and a direct route to a community and the neighbors. Mr. Buscaino gave me one of those good San Pedro smiles, so maybe you can pick that up, Joe, and make that happen. Thank you, and each and every one of you. I'd like to call you out by name, but Enrique Zaldivar, I want to thank you for every Thursday in my life because you make a big difference for everyone, including all the drivers. Let's hear the drivers, all the sanitation trucks, postal sewers, big hand. Crew 152, paving, crew 152, and all the street cleaners.
Thanks, Tom. Tom, you're going to be missed. Your plane's about to land, but you're forever in our hearts. Okay, guys, so they have one card. But in celebration of National Public Works Week, we acknowledge our heroes in the Public Works Bureau in the city of Los Angeles, and we thank them for their tireless efforts each and every day to improve our quality of lives in the city of Los Angeles. Congratulations. We love you. All right. Get in there. Get in there, Tom. Come here, Tom.
Good, right, Kevin, get closer.
Thank you, Madam President. We have one speaker card, right?
Yes, we have one speaker card. Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. But Mr. Labange, do you know what's at the previous LAUSD headquarters now?
Tina's Educational Institute.
School of the Performing Arts. Thank you very much. Mr. Walsh on item 5. Mr. Walsh, are you here?
John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org. For identification purposes only, Chairman of the Citizens for Raise the Minimum Wage. Yes, and I think what we should have up here, what a wonderful job you do in Public Works. I woke up in the morning on Saturday, police all over the neighborhood, people next door to me being evacuated for their home because some ignorant asshole at DWP sliced at Yucca and Argyle and Cahuenga, sliced into the gas line. You said you'd fix it in 3 hours. You said you fixed it in 9 hours. You said you'd fix it in 12 hours. You said the DWP you'd fix it finally in 18 hours. You ruined our neighborhood. A number of businesses are near bankruptcy, losing a full Saturday. Yes, take this award to the Public Works, fold it 4 ways, and stick it up the DWP's ass.
Next speaker, Juan Alcala. Mr. Alcala, are you here? Next speaker, Mr. Herman. Michael Hunt. Sergeants, can you check if there's folks in the other room, just to give them an opportunity to come get here? We're going to the next presentation, Mr. Englander.
Thank you, Madam President. Is Terrazas is no, but who's going to speak from the front? I will. Okay. Morning. Thank you so much. I'm honored today that I've got JoJo and Dominic here with me, our true superheroes. Today, I'm proud to join the Los Angeles Fire Department and the United Firefighters of Los Angeles to kick off the 61st annual Fill the Boot Drive to benefit Muscular Dystrophy Association. We are proclaiming Wednesday, May 20th through Friday, May 22nd as the Fill the Boot Days throughout the city of Los Angeles. In 1955, the International Association of Firefighters, the IAFF, began the Fill the Boot partnership with MDA, which includes firefighters throughout America, collecting funding to support efforts to combat muscular and neuromuscular diseases. Together, firefighters across the nation have raised over $560 million to benefit MDA. In the past 9 years, the partnership with the Los Angeles Fire Department and UFLAC have raised more than $1.3 million for MDA through the annual Fill the Boot campaign. The Muscular Dystrophy Association is the world's leading nonprofit health agency dedicated to finding treatments and cures for muscular dystrophy and ALS and other neuromuscular diseases. I want to personally thank the men and women of the fire department, our brave heroes who go out every year and they run this campaign. They stand out there with boots, and we've all seen them. They stand out in front of stores. They go door to door. I've seen them actually standing in traffic with boots over the years. They do whatever it takes. These are men and women that protect us each and every day, and they go the extra mile on their days off, evenings and weekends, filling the boot for such a great cause. And let's give them all a huge round of applause. And for JoJo and Dominic. And if you want to come up and say a few words too as well, please. Thank you.
As a member of the Los Angeles Fire Department for the past 15 years, this has been an annual tradition of ours to go out there, fan across the city of Los Angeles with our boots and help to raise money for these kids. So this is also something that is a major sponsor of the International Firefighters of the International Association of Firefighters. And as a member of United Firefighters of Los Angeles City, we're very proud to fully endorse and support this organization. So for the next 3 days, we're going to be out there across the city. You're going to see us out there with our boots in hand, raising money for Dominic and Joey here. So thank you for your support. And we also have a representative from MDA, Brittany Commodore, here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd just like to thank the city for supporting this annual tradition, the Los Angeles Fire Department Fill the Boot. Last year alone, I can tell you that the LA Fire Department was able to raise $113,000 in just 3 days for MDA, and this year our goal is $130,000. And these dollars translate directly into research and treatments and progress for local families throughout the city of Los Angeles, like JoJo and Dominic, and like Marilyn Cisneros behind me. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you to the fire department and the entire city. And keep an eye out for us, as Adam mentioned, on Wednesday, tomorrow the 20th, the 21st, and 22nd from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. We will be at 26 intersections throughout the city, and let's help us achieve our goal. Thank you so much for your support.
So one more thing. Thank you very much. And on behalf of the entire City Council, it's my honor to present you with the resolution declaring Los Angeles Fire Department Fill the Boot Days, and really, truly appreciate everything you continue to do. So thank you very, very much. Wait. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Englander, and to all of you for everything that you do. Madam Clerk, we're going to go back to item 5. I believe our speakers are now in council chambers.
Can you take a round? Sure. Please. Thank you.
First speaker, Juan Acala. Is Mr. Acala in council chambers? Michael Hunt. Mr. Hunt, just a reminder, you were speaking on item 5.
And what is item 5? Minimum wage or wage increasement?
This is not. No, sir. This is on the Public Works Week. We had a presentation minutes ago. Item 5.
Yeah, well, we didn't get a chance. Well, I'm for it, and everybody should be for it, and I'm for actually giving everybody a $20 raise.
He is not talking about this
You're
item.
not on the subject, sir. Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, Mr. Alcala, neither one of them are in council chambers. That concludes our cards, Madam Clerk. Can you open the roll? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Item passes. Next item.
Item 1, call special for cards.
First speaker on item 1, John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.com or jwalshconfidential.wordpress.com or at 2 Urban Girls. And you don't have to be urban or a girl to go there. This is number 1. This concerns building and safety and liens for nuisance abatement. You know what a nuisance is. Just take a look at me. And I'm going to tell you right now that you do a good job on this. When you do a good job, I'm the first to congratulate you. I'm not one of those angry white guys that say they're all a bunch of crooks. I believe that you do a good job. I have a pension, 25-year pension, from working for the government. So what I'm saying is keep up the good work. These are on building and safety reports, and make sure that these people who are causing a nuisance pay for it. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Robert Arredondo. Robert Arredondo, is he here? Sergeant, can you check the other room to make sure Mr. Arredondo knows he's next? Mr. Alcala? Juan Alcala? Mr. Herman? Michael Hunt? Item 1.
I think every building should be inspected and by the Building and Safety Department. And I know I'm on topic because it's safety first, and safety should be adequate for all buildings in the city of Los Angeles. Michael Hunt.
Madam Clerk, we're going to hold the items on the desk and go to item 2.
Item 2, call special for cards.
Item 2, first speaker, John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or jwalshconfidential.wordpress.com. This concerns fees for conditional use permits. Well, I don't know how many people know what that means. If you live in a neighborhood that's zoned against high-rises, you're not safe because they give contributions. This is what this is about. The developer gives contributions to the city council, and they come up with a conditional use permit, which allows them to destroy your neighborhood. And remember what's going on here. We want everything from here. I'm speaking as a white man. Who knows more about racism than a white man? Conditional use permits will be used to turn
This is regarding a business improvement district.
I'm talking about them. Keep your mouth shut. HollywoodHighlands.org. Shut up when I'm speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Madam Clerk, we don't have any more cards on item number 2. Can you open the roll? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Item passes. Thank you. Next item.
Item 3, call special for cards.
Mr. Walsh, you can come back up. Item 3.
I waive my time.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. That concludes our cards for item 3. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Item passes. Let's go to item 6, Madam Clerk.
Item 6, call special for cards.
First speaker, Mr. Walsh, item 6.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. You're wasting everybody's time. Everybody's here for item 4. Why aren't we speaking on item 4? Why are you speaking on the Mickey Rooney Memorial Square? Anybody who knows who Mickey Rooney is near death. Okay? I know who Mickey Rooney was. Let's finish this stuff, get rid of this crap, all the cameras are ready, and let's go in to raising the minimum wage.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. If I can ask the audience. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Next speaker on item 6, Sean. If I can please have the audience, please remain quiet. We're trying to get through the agenda quickly. Thank you very much. Next speaker on item 6, Sean.
Yeah, item 6. I wish there was accommodate some chairs. I'm sick of standing in the back. I'm over 50.
Thank you, Sean. Next speaker for item 6, Juan Alcala. Juan Alcala for item 6. Mr. Herman on item 6. Michael Hunt.
It's about time we represent something, folks. Minimum wage rate.
He is not talking about the item.
Mr. Hunt, I'm going to ask you to please be quiet and stop disrupting the meeting. Next speaker, Wayne Spindler, item 6. Mr. Spindler, item number 6. There are no more cards on item 6. Madam Clerk, can you open the roll? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Item passes. Thank you. I'm going to go back to item 2. Sorry about that. Item 1, Robert Arredondo. Is he here? Thank you, sir. You are speaking on item 1D.
Yes. Hey, thank you for listening. There was a lien imposed on one of my properties because of a code violation back in 2009. And I received the notice the first part of April, and I've been calling the phone numbers on that notice, and I keep getting a voicemail or a different direction. I just want to pay the bill, and I just want to be given that opportunity to pay that code violation. Those codes have been corrected, and I just need to get the correct address to pay the bill and not get any more voicemails, and so I'm hoping to get that resolved.
Sir, that's in Council District 8. I'm going to get staff to speak to you at the ropes.
All right, thank you
very much for being here.
Yeah.
We're going to hold 1D and vote on the remaining items, Madam Clerk.
And those items are items 1A, B, C, and E.
Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Item passes. Madam Clerk, let's go to general public comment. Donna Perlman.
Yeah, I want to know how many people who are asking, want the minimum wage increase, live or work in the San Fernando Valley. Why don't you insist that video conferencing in Van Nuys reopen? Those in the valley, it's much easier to speak in Van Nuys. Insist on it, either for you or for those you care about, so you don't have to go all the way downtown. Also, I want to point out that Obama is affecting us locally, taking away our badly needed arsenal from our police, which is needed to protect us so that constituents won't be overwhelmed by criminals and gang members. Obama believes in giving youth and black entitlements instead of good opportunities to prosper. Obama doesn't care for the black youth to succeed in life, and Hillary Clinton doesn't either, which is another Obama, but worse. In the meantime, we're being overtaken by ISIS, and Obama and our country is doing nothing about it. Raise the minimum wage.
Thank you, Ms. Perlman. Next speaker, John Walsh.
HollywoodHighlands.org. Today is election day in certain parts of the county. Go to my website, J. Walsh Confidential. 2 LAUSD districts. Vote in the Valley for Scott Schmerelson. And vote also in the central area for Bennett Kaiser. And for City Council to long last replace Mr. Labange, who's been sitting here for, I think, 47 years, David Rue. The workforce is integrated, but the City Council is not integrated. I don't see any yellow fellows up here. Vote for David Rue. Viva the Koreans, viva the wage. Let's get to item 4.
Next speaker, Sean.
Carolyn Ramsey for City Council 4. I predict she'll win. I turn in my absentee ballot. That's it.
Thank you, Sean. Next speaker, Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, are you here? Wayne Spindler. Mr. Spindler. Juan Alcala. Juan Alcala. Michael Carrion. Michael Carrion, Public Swamp. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's very convenient that Mr. Huizar got up and walked out because he doesn't want to deal with his incompetence. A while back, we had the Soto Slope that we were talking about, and Mr. Huizar hasn't done anything in 9 years. Oh, it's under litigation. Oh, it's going out to bid. It's going out to this. It's going out to a bunch of BS. Mr. Huizar should come out and stand up to me and look at me when I speak instead of running away, hiding like a coward. Yeah, Mr. Huizar, you're a coward and a liar and a cheat. Come out and face the music, or go hide behind chambers like the coward we know you are. Mr. Huizar had an agreement with me, and he broke it. But then again, Mr. Huizar had an agreement with his wife, and he broke that too. Yeah, I'm pissed off, I'm tired, and I'm frustrated. Mr. Huizar should come out and face the music. He'll come out and cry about something later on, but he's a coward.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Brian Barajas. Mr. Barajas, are you here?
All right. I think people need to understand that you're not going to get out of a bad economy by doing stuff like raising the wages. You forget who took over this country, and that's called Wall Street. They can easily just hike up the prices, and your 15 will never amount to anything. So if we as a people don't get it together, like electing a real president, not Hillary Clinton or Jeb Bush. We need a real FDR. We need a Washington. We need a mind. And that's our federal government. So everybody here who's interested, and I know some of you have heard of Lyndon LaRouche, go to LaRouchePAC.com. And remember, Lyndon LaRouche is the one who was trying to save your motherfucking asses from this empire.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Aaron Previn. Eric Previn. Mr. Previn, are you here? Next speaker, Bradley Hertz. Mr. Hertz, are you here? Next speaker, Morris Griffith. Mr. Griffin, are you here? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sir, please wait till you get to the mic so you can start your time.
I'm here today to say to you all, this is the second time I'm here, and all I'm asking you to do is to recreate manufacturing and clean energy jobs, but also to use this as a supplemental income to existing jobs by simply redirecting Powerball, Super Lotto, Mega Lotto on a statewide ballot measure, not only to help us help each other, but also to tell the businesses of all different businesses, whether it's the mom and pop stores, we want you to put it on the ballot. Let the people decide on how they want to spend their money. 34% of Powerball, Super Lotto, Mega Lotto is $41 million for just $100 million. All I am saying is let's think outside the box. Let's show Ferguson. Let's show Baltimore that we are one, and Los Angeles will become the pillar of America. That's all of my time. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Madam Clerk, we're going to hold these two cards on file for Mr. Bradley Hertz and Eric Previn. We've called them for public comment. Madam Clerk, let's go back to item 1D. There's a request to continue that item for 2 weeks.
And that's until June 5th.
Thank you. Let's go to item 4, Madam Clerk.
4, call special for cards. And for Councilmember Price.
Mr. Price to open.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, the road has been long, but today we stand on the cusp of change. Before us is an opportunity to move forward one of the nation's most aggressive plans to address urban poverty and income inequality. For the last 7 months, the Council's Economic Development Committee has undergone an unprecedented level of discussion on this issue. It included more than 7 studies, 7 hearings, 3 studies, a peer review, more than 600 personal testimonials, and countless hours of debate. Last week in committee, we unanimously approved a series of recommendations to begin shaping our minimum wage policy. That goal was to ensure the Council had an outline that addressed key points we felt were critical to a citywide minimum wage policy. For me personally, it was important to ensure that we listened to business concerns and we made accommodations for businesses of varying sizes. We also wanted to make sure that workers' salaries kept pace with rising costs. And we added a waiver process to give nonprofits facing financial hardship more time to adjust to the new wage schedule. It was also important for me to remain committed to providing paid leave for workers. During our numerous hearings, we listened to dozens of individuals testify about the significance of paid time off. And paid leave has always been a part of the wage policy discussions in Los Angeles. In fact, every single wage ordinance approved by the City Council since 1997 has included a generous paid leave policy. This has helped LA cement its commitment to the basic principle that paid leave should not be a luxury for some, but it should be a right for all. Consistency is critical in any future legal challenges to this policy. But as a city, we should be proud of the positive, progressive stances we've taken. And we should stay the course when the safety and well-being of our residents is at stake. However, staying consistent does not mean that we have to prescribe a one-size-fits-all policy. The city has never taken on a wage policy this broad, and special consideration should be studied and debated, which is why I've agreed to amend our committee recommendation to allow us some additional time to hammer out the details of our paid leave policy. And I'm sure that over the course of our discussion today, many of you will have discussions and suggestions for this policy. I invite the debate, but I also challenge all of us to have the courage to make the bold, courageous steps that are called for. And let's not forget why we set off on this path to begin with. A year or so ago, we took the step with our colleagues, Councilman Martinez and Councilman Bonin, and the effort came from our belief that our hardest working men and women deserve to earn a wage that allows them to survive and thrive in Los Angeles. I'm confident that this policy will help that to occur. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Madam Clerk, public hearing was satisfied in committee, but due to the importance of this item, we've reopened public comment. Each side would get 25 minutes, and I would start with Mr. Gary Tobin. Mr. Tobin, are you here?
Good morning, members of the council. I'm Gary Tobin, the president of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. As I know you have noticed, there are banners all over City Hall celebrating Small Business Week, and for good reason. Small businesses are the heart and soul of Los Angeles, and you have their attention on this issue. At your 5 public hearings across the city, small businesses represented half of those who presented testimony. The small businesses urged the City Council to include tips in the total compensation for employees, lengthen the phase-in time, and not create more barriers to discourage hiring youth workers and applicants that have very limited experience or skill. These small business people attended your 5 hearings because they know that this policy is about Main Street, not Wall Street, and they will be the most negatively impacted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Ruben Gonzalez, Stuart Wellman after him, and John Holland.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council. My name is Ruben Gonzalez on behalf of the LA Area Chamber of Commerce. This is no longer the world of unintended consequences. With these actions, it's now intended consequences. And the reality is that the very people the rhetoric claims to help with this action, it's going to hurt. The folks who create the jobs that are at these service levels are the ones who are going to have to eliminate jobs. It's simple math. There is simply not enough room, enough margin in these businesses to absorb 50+% increase in labor costs over a short period of time. And while 1 year may take a little of the edge off, it's still 50% plus increase in labor costs over a little while longer. And the only way to absorb those costs is to either cut positions, cut hours, automate, or move, because you simply can't raise your prices to take it in. That's the reality, and that's what you will see when implemented.
Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Stuart Wellman.
This issue is about the workers, but it's also about the job losses that are going to happen. Even the Berkeley study that said going to $15 will result in job losses. You're telling businesses to give a 40% raise over 3 years, a 67% raise over 5 years, and when you factor in workers' comp and payroll tax, 100% increased the labor costs over 5 years. That is an enormous amount of money you're telling business to put into their budgets. Now, before you start patting yourselves on the back about helping small businesses, a 1-year delay does not help anyone. Most small businesses that I've talked to, VICA members, have acknowledged that they are going to have to pay the market rate to keep their employees. So they're going to lose them to Burger King or to Walmart.
Thank you, Mr. Wallman.
Every cut in an hour for an employee, every job loss.
Thank you, Mr. Wallman. Your time is up. Mr. Wallman. Thank you. Mr. Howland, after Audience, I'm going to ask you to please lower your voices. After Mr. Howland, the next speaker is Ana Cecilia Whitehead, Jan Sobel, and Dustin Batten. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm John Howland with the Central City Association. CCA was the first business group to support the mayor's program of $13.25 an hour. We supported it with a few conditions, one of which was to slow it down. 4 years for big business, 7 years for small business. We did that because it was rational and it was reasonable and it wouldn't create job losses and job damage. $6 in 5 years is neither rational nor reasonable. It will create lots of businesses shutting down, paring back benefits, and create damage to the very workers you're seeking to protect. Furthermore, this city gave its workforce a 25% raise over 5 years and then had to walk it back. And now you are holding the line, and most of your workforce is not getting any raise being offered to them. So treat business the way that you treat yourselves. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Good morning, Madam President, members of the council. My name is Dustin Batten, and I am with LA BizFed. We're the Los Angeles County Business Federation, representing 88,000 employers in the city of Los Angeles. And we currently oppose the current minimum wage increase. There are 5 main points that we take issue with. We would like to request the removal of the automatic CPI adjustment from any minimum wage increase ordinance, allow a different pay scale for teenage workers so they are not locked out of jobs, to enact a longer phase-in period for employers with 100 employees or more or less, to count total compensation in minimum wage calculations, which we're aware would probably require some sort of state legislation, but we ask the council to pick that up and support that. And finally, the additional paid sick days, we'd ask for that to be removed as well. Again, the LA County Business Federation opposes the way that the current proposal is written. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speakers are Jan Sobel, Ana Cecilia Whitehead, and Beth Marlis.
Council members, my name is Jan Sobel. I represent the Boys and Girls Club of the West Valley and 9 other Boys and Girls Club in the city of Los Angeles. We take care of more than 40,000 children after school every day. Many of them are these people's children. If you raise the minimum wage as it is now established, then we won't be able to provide those services to help those children. So we hope that you will consider helping the nonprofits that make services to these children by extending the period of increase and also clarification of the nonprofit orders that you might have, the 8 times the transitional as well as the government funding. Many of us do not receive any funding except from the good and kind hearts of the citizens of Los Angeles. So please think about the 40,000 children that we'll have to turn away if this goes through. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Good morning, members of the council. My name is Ana Cecilia Whitehead. I work in a company that is located in the San Fernando Valley. I have been working for this company for 25 years, and like me, there are 250 employees and their families that depend on these jobs. The state last and future increase of the minimum wage has forced us to look for another alternatives. We are currently in the process of opening a shelter in Tijuana, Baja California, in the country of Mexico. This is very sad, really very sad. What the proposal will do for us is to force us completely to move out of the state of California. We are not going to be able to survive this increase in the minimum wage. During all the time I have been working in the company, I have never felt so insecure about the future. And my fellow employees and friends feel the same. This proposal will hurt a lot of small business like us. Please help us to keep our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Beth Morales. After Beth, it's Magaith Jonathan and Matt Sutton. Go ahead.
On behalf of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank Council for taking on this very important issue. As you may know, the Hollywood Chamber was one of the very first business organizations to support the mayor's proposal to increase the minimum wage, and that we could do so responsibly with concrete steps to mitigate adverse effects to the small business community. We're pleased to see a recommendation for a two-track phase-in approach for larger and smaller businesses, as well as overall extended timeframes for full implementation. We believe that such an approach will go a long way to help businesses better prepare for increased costs associated with significant raises in wages. The Chamber is concerned, however, that the 25 employee or less threshold for a slower phase-in of the $15 wage is too low. We're asking that the committee instead provide an extended phase-in period for all businesses that are 250 employees or less. Please keep in mind that the federal definition of a small business is 500 employees. The Chamber remains concerned about the effects of a significant wage increase on the business competitiveness in LA. We wish to mitigate adverse effects by accompanying with a simultaneous plan to aggressively reduce and reform the LA business tax.
Thank you, ma'am. Magaith Jonathan. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Matt Sutton.
Thank you. I'm Matt Sutton with the California Restaurant Association. We've been productive partners in this discussion since September, and we've been advocating for a total compensation model that would ensure that tipped employees are making a minimum of $15. We know the data shows they're making well in excess of that, but that helps restaurant operators with limited dollars dedicate the remainder of the funds to those that are not minimum wage employees but still at the lower end of the pay scale, those in the heart of the house, the cooks, the chefs, the dishwashers, etc. The other issue is the teen wage that you have is a great start. We don't want to exacerbate teen unemployment, which we will as we go to these super minimum wages. So the cutoff is at 17 years old. We'd encourage you to capture 18, 19, and possibly 20-year-olds. We do have a very large teen unemployment problem here, and I think that's something you should be sensitive to, because as the wages get higher and higher, people will be less likely to take a risk on relatively untrained and new employees to the job market. And we pride ourselves on being a pathway for people into the employment sector. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Maria Ponce, followed by Andrew Binder and Gary Morrow. Is Maria Ponce here? Andrew Binder and Gary Morrow? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. My name's Gary Morrow, and I'm a restaurant owner who operates two of our small family of restaurants in the city of Los Angeles. Both of our leases are up in the next 24 months, and if a $15 minimum wage goes through, which would cost us 3 times our annual profits, we cannot renew the lease on at least one, possibly both of these restaurants. Therefore, at least 70 people or more and the families that depend on them will not make $15 an hour, but they'll be on the street with uncertain job prospects. If a total compensation model is adopted, I believe we could remain in business and give raises to those who need them, not our tipped employees who already make $20 an hour or more. We have opinions from 3 reputable law firms that the City of Los Angeles can include this provision, and it is entirely reasonable to do so. The total compensation approach ensures every employee earns at least the minimum wage. Tips are reported on the employee's paychecks and their W-2s, and it's no harder to enforce than the current minimum wage. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Andrew Binder, Donna Perlman, and Elena Pop.
Hi, I'm Andrew Binder. I'm representing a restaurant, a very old restaurant in Los Angeles, Philippe's. And being an old restaurant, we've always tried to keep our prices as low as possible, 45-cent coffee, 65-cent iced tea. With the wages going up, it's going to be hard to do that. And we are union right now, and so we do provide health care for all of our employees, all of our families. But it's going to be very difficult, and you're going to see prices go up. And I just want to voice that for the restaurant industry. It's going to be very difficult for everyone, so thank you.
Okay, this is Donna. I believe there might be a problem with small businesses. So what we want to do basically is go up to the big, large chains and where most of the people are working for and work for the possibly raising of the minimum wage. The only problem I have is that you're doing it on timing, not turning on how long the person is working. Whether the person is working 3 years or the person is working 25 years, they would be getting the same wage. So instead of going by years, we should go by how long did the person work, and give the largest part of the salary for people who've already worked a long period of time, so that they'll get more money than the people who just worked 3 years. And God forbid there was anybody that worked less than a year or a year. So let's raise it, but let's do it right, and let's worry about the small business. Thank you, and reopen Van Nuys video conferencing.
Thank you, Donna. Next speaker, Elena Pop, Wendy Butts, and Brian Langston.
Good morning, Acting President Martinez and City Council members. My name is Wendy Butts. I'm the CEO of the LA Conservation Corps, and I'm here today on behalf of the Transitional Jobs Program Coalition of Homeboy, Chrysalis, and the LA Corps. Our programs serve the hardest to serve, the formerly incarcerated, the homeless, and our city's at-risk youth. We provide these forgotten and castaway individuals with job training, education, and supportive services. Each year, upwards of 600 city residents receive these services and take the first steps towards self-sufficiency. Without our programs and the second and third chances we provide, our participants would continue to be out of work and out of school and searching for the support they need to attain and retain jobs. We are asking for an exemption to the mayor's proposed minimum wage increases for our program participants only. Without this, the Corps is faced with drastic cuts to our program offerings. Essentially half, or 300 of our current 600 participants, will not be able to participate in our programs, which provide them with the tools they'll need to move beyond minimum wage jobs during their careers. Please consider our exemption.
Next speaker, Brian Langston. And Ella. Are you Brian?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. I'm all for minimum wage. Of course, I'm a young African-American trying to better and change my life, and the people behind me are all trying to change and better their life to get out of survivor mode, right? But I am, just like Wendy Butts' mission, I am here for a cause that we do need the exemption, because I would hate to watch my peers drop out of the program, as well as I can even drop out the program, because even the high school diploma made me the person I am today. Case manage and everything else made me who I am today. And I was always a shy person. I wouldn't even, without my case manager, I wouldn't even be up here speaking to you guys. So I'm just trying to do the right thing, and I don't want to see us fall apart. Thank you for listening.
Next speaker, Elena Pop, followed by George Abudab, Alexander Nagy, and Ricardo Paco.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Nagy. I'm an organizer with Food and Water Watch and one of the Women Fasters for 15. I want to remember the 70,000 workers that walked out, went on strike, and rallied in over 200 cities across the country April 15th. This movement to raise the wage started with fast food workers in New York. This speaks to me as an organizer at Food and Water Watch. Our battles against corporations like Walmart and McDonald's that control vast swaths of the food system tend to extend to the fight for a living wage. Cozy relationships with corporations allow them to pollute our water, patent our food, and exploit the workers. We need government that listens to the people, 6,500 people that marched in LA on April 15th. We need this minimum wage not to undermine that movement. Governor Cuomo last week just announced that fast food workers need a raise. Facebook just went to 15. Seattle did 500 corporations with over 500 employees, 15 by 2017. LA can do that. Certain sectors can't afford it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir, hold on for just a second. Let me call the rest of the speakers so they can line up. Ricardo Paco, Marlena Ontiveros, and Robert Lee. Go ahead, sir.
I'm a small business owner, and I represent a 300-plus ad hoc group of independent restaurants that came together to support a wage increase when done wisely. The details you're aware of. Our efforts have not fallen on deaf ears. We're actually getting punished for trying to help. Raising the wage isn't just something the majority of the people in this room support. We do too, but we're the ones who have to figure out how to get there with zero help or guidance from those pushing the measure. This is about a serious math issue, and every hearing is turned into opposing sides and applause like Congress. The sign over that door says law is reason without passion, and we've seen a lot of passion but virtually no reason. I was a minimum wage worker, I was a salaried employee, and now I'm a small business owner. The income disparity in Los Angeles does not lie between small business owners and their employees. This issue won't get resolved on the backs of small business. Please focus your future efforts on more than this optical Band-Aid and work on making housing affordable in LA so everyone sitting in this room doesn't have to spend 30 to 60% of their income on rent. And those moving the wage increase forward need to also step up and help small businesses figure out how to get there.
Hi, my name is Ricardo Paco. I'm at Homeboy Industries doing the 18-month program. I'm presently enrolled in a number of classes like parenting, anger management, individual therapy. Homeboys has given me an opportunity no one else has. Given me the opportunity to believe in myself. I am now enrolled in college, something I never imagined. At Homeboys, we support the increase of minimum wage, but we ask for our program to be exempt so I and many others can continue being part of this great program and become an example to our children and a productive member of society. What Homeboys have done for me is priceless. The therapy, the classes, the opportunity to get paid while working on ourselves is truly a blessing. Homeboys is truly heaven on earth. Thank you.
Thank you. Marlena Ontiveros, Robert Lee, and Lugo Miguel Jr. Go ahead.
Good morning. If I was to get laid off and I have the opportunity to work on myself, I have a state case, a federal case. I was looking at 33 years, and I got taken off the case for my daughters. And I just lost my parental rights. And if it wasn't for Homeboys being my family and being my support and being able to use the tools that I'm able to use there and the resources, I wouldn't be able to work on getting my daughters back with not only parenting, but substance abuse classes and therapy. And I would really appreciate that because a lot of people that walk through those doors also need a chance to work on themselves, ex-gang members and also criminals that need a chance in life for a second chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Robert Lee, Lugo Miguel Jr., and Jose Osuna.
Hello. Homeboy Industries, they have an excellent employment services program that helps people find jobs, whether it's minimum wage or higher. But Homeboy Industries provide programs for people like myself that are trainees, and this minimum wage really affects those people. Any one of us could just move over to the employment services program and find a job that pays $13 an hour or higher. But we're really concerned about the program that we're involved with, and if this minimum wage was to go through with it without an exemption for Homeboy Industries, then half of our trainees in our program would be cut loose, and the transition that Homeboy Industries provides for those people would be at loss. Please do something about an exemption so that our people can continue and do something better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Lugo Miguel Jr., Jose Osuna, and Mark Loringer.
Hello, my name is Miguel Lugo. I'm a former lifer in prison, and I got a second chance at life out here. And I enter Homeboys for the programs, for therapy, to become a member of society, to come back into society, to get the second chance. So I'm asking you guys to please give the exemption so we can be part of the second chance. You guys can be part of this, part of our second chance at life out here. So I won't have to go back to the criminal life. So my brothers that are coming out of prison could have a second chance. That's our home. We go there broken, coming out of prison. Everybody always talks about rehabilitation. Rehabilitation for who? We don't got it nowhere else, but we got it at Homeboys. Other places have left us down, but Homeboys have opened their doors. So we're asking you guys, from your hearts, to vote for us, to sit here, and we are for the $15 an hour. We wish everybody could get the money they need so they can survive and feed their families and their kids, and they can have everything they need. Thank you.
Excuse me. There was 3 people.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, sir. You need to sit down. Thank you very much. Next speaker is Jose Osuna, Mark Loringer, and Chris Ficotto.
Thank you, Madam President, Council, and City Council. I'll just give the same message that I gave to the committee last week, which is some simple numbers. We're currently at a head count of about 170 trainees at Homeboy Industries. These are people that are on payroll but are also receiving a large number of support services, including mental health therapy, parenting classes, anger management classes. If Homeboy Industries is not given an exemption from the minimum wage raise, which we are in support of, we understand that raising the minimum wage is a strong way to break the vicious cycle of poverty. But if we're forced to implement that into our training program, that would mean that we would have to lay off 73 of those people today. We absolutely want to be able to provide as many services to as many people that we can. We do serve the hardest population that there is to serve here in the city of Los Angeles. The former gang member that's trying to leave that lifestyle, and the people that are leaving prisons from any length of incarceration from 5 years to 30 years. We definitely want to provide those services. We ask you to please support an exemption for Homeboy Industries. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker.
Good morning, Madam President. Mark Laranger from Chrysalis. I think the representatives from Homeboy and the Conservation Corps said it best. They are men and women trying to get back into this community, and they need a hand up, not a handout. We are trying to move men and women from poverty. In fact, at my program at Chrysalis, when folks successfully leave our program, like 1,500 did last year, the average wage is $11.40, well above what we're talking about with our first step in the minimum wage. But we need some help. We need some help for those specific folks that are in our program, in this training program, to bridge them to that outside minimum wage, hopefully living wage program. So we ask for your support today in considering a clean exemption specifically for the folks involved in the transitional jobs program. Not all of our employees, just the folks in that program. Thanks for your consideration today.
Sir, you are the last speaker against this item, and the rest of the cards will be filed, and we're going to move on to speakers who are in favor of the item. So go ahead.
All right, my name is Chris Frijoko. I'm from Homeboy Industry. I'm just picking back off what everybody else said to exempt us from the wages. Well, I'm not against the wages. I expect everybody, the wages can come up and everybody can provide for their families more the better. But I'm speaking on my behalf and Homeboy Industries and my homeboys and homegirls. We can't afford to pay everybody that, and I need my job. My job helps me heal. I take anger management classes, parenting, domestic violence, educational programs that helps me better myself, If it affects us and I lose my job, I hate to say it, but it leaves me I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It could be devastating for somebody like me, and I don't want to resort back to crimes. I don't want to go back to prison. I don't want to be out there hurting people like I used to. Homeboy Industry gave me the opportunity, the platform, the healing process to not go there no more, So please exempt us. Please help me. As Homeboy Industry saved my life, I'm asking you guys, please. You know what I mean? I'm not a gang member no more. I'm not a criminal no more, and I'm a drug addict, but I participate in my recovery. please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to call one more card against this item because there was a person who spoke that's in favor that spoke against in the wrong order. So I'm going to go ahead and call one more card, someone who's against this item, Michael Rodriguez. Is he here? Michael Rodriguez? Okay, let's go with Christine Chavez. Still against this item. Gwendolyn Aristorina. Or Guadalupe Aristorina. David Houston. David Houston. Okay. Thank you, sir. Come to the podium. State your name first.
My name is Michael Rodriguez. Sorry. So I speak? Okay. I currently work at Homeboy Industries. I'm an employee right there who is currently enrolled in the 18-month program. And what I'm asking for is an exemption for Homeboy Industries on everyone who's in the 18-month program. It would be very devastating to see all my fellow employees without a job. Homeboy Industries has been very sustainable in my life and directing me where I gotta go. I got a daughter who's very sick and a wife who's very sick from cancer. And I was a gang member before Homeboy Industries. I'm no longer that gang member that I once was. I'm getting my tattoos removed. I'm not on drugs. I'm not stealing from old people. I just ask for you give us the exemption that we're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You were the last speaker on items, on speaker cards against this item. I'm going to start with speaker cards in favor of this item. First speaker, Franco Vega, followed by Gilda Valdez, Elena Medina. Ma'am, are you ready to speak?
Yeah, I'm
Go
ready
ahead.
to speak. Good morning, everybody. My name is Gilda Valdez. I am the Chief of Staff for SEIU Local 7 to 1. I'm also the President of Fast Food Fight for 15 in Los Angeles, and with me is the Vice President of 7 to 1, Linda Dent, along with the fast food workers. I'm going to make this quick. I want to make points on 4 different issues. One is, I just have to say, this debate should have never been about the Chamber of Commerce versus the working people of Los Angeles, okay? I just got to say that for the record, okay? Number one, on the issue of the franchises, we want to make sure that they follow the same track as big employers like McDonald's. They should not be off the hook. Number two, on the issue of getting to $15 an hour, I just want to understand and say that I wish we would have relied on the studies from Berkeley and UCLA, because we missed a pretty big point, which is that in the study from Berkeley, it shows that taxpayers are paying $157 billion, okay, because they're augmenting the wages of these,
Thank you, ma'am.
employers are augmenting the wages for low-wage workers.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker. Next speaker, Franco Vega, Elena Medina, and Clarissa Wu. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President, and good morning, council members. My name is Franco Vega, Executive Director of the Right Way Foundation. We provide employment services and mental health services for foster care youth. We support this minimum wage. No one on my staff makes under $15 an hour. As an executive director, when I create this foundation, I didn't create this to keep people in poverty. I create this foundation to get people out of poverty. Now, 50% of our foster youth become homeless within 2 years. 50% of my foster youth become homeless within 2 years. 70% of my males go to prison, come out of the foster care system. 85% of my girls walking the streets as sex slaves come from my population. If we had a decent wage, we can reduce these terrible numbers. Los Angeles has the largest foster care system in the nation. We have the best president, the best mayor in this city. It's time for you guys to be the best right here. This is Foster Care Awareness Month. Please give my foster kids a gift and raise this minimum wage. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Elena Medina, and I'm Assistant General Counsel for SEIU. I urge you to treat franchisees like other large employers for purposes of the minimum wage timetable, even those franchise locations with fewer than 25 employees. Franchisees are not independent small businesses. They are part of large corporate franchise networks. Franchisees like McDonald's and Subway obtain significant benefits by virtue of their franchise status, including brand recognition, operational guidance and support, cooperative advertising, lower purchasing costs, and access to financing and market research. Franchisees can also look to franchisors for financial and other assistance in times of business stress. As a result, this means that franchisees have the flexibility and the resources to implement minimum wage increases more easily and more quickly than other independent small businesses. The City of Seattle's ordinance is particularly instructive. I would like to enter into the record 2 declarations by franchise experts along with a favorable district court decision, all of which provide ample support that franchisees should be treated the same as large employers for purposes of the minimum wage increases. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Clarissa Wu, Kevin Lidwit, and Julia Figueroa McDowell. Go ahead.
Good morning, council members. My name is Clarissa Wu Hermosillo, and I'm proud to be here representing the American Civil Liberties Union of Southern California. The ACLU SoCal is a strong supporter of the LA Raise the Wage campaign because economic rights are inextricably intertwined to civil liberties, and because paid sick days and living wage are critical economic justice and reproductive justice issues. Economic justice was a founding tenet of our organization. A person cannot enjoy their civil rights if they cannot feed themselves and their family, or if they don't have a roof over their head. In the same vein, reproductive justice means being able to work and take care of yourself and your family. It means not having to choose between taking care of your needs and the needs of a sick child and keeping the job that is crucial to your family's well-being. Raising the wage to a minimum of $15.25 an hour, guaranteeing earned paid sick days, and creating a real mechanism for wage enforcement for all workers is critical. And we must act now, and we look to you all to lead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Thank you. Good morning, dear City Council members. My name is Kevin Litwin. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Joe's Parking, and I'm also a member of the Main Street Alliance. Together, we support raising the LA minimum wage to $15.25. When Joe's Parking was founded in 1959, minimum wage was just $1 an hour, but we didn't pay the bare minimum then, and we're not going to pay it now. We're over 50 years. We're committed to offering fair wages, attracting the best and brightest employees, and that's how we grew to be one of the largest operators here in downtown. Because raising the minimum wage to $15.25 an hour is the right thing to do. With $15.25, we thrive. And let me tell you, homeboy, I'm going to be first in line to make a donation to Father Greg if this goes through. Because I have also philanthropy side, and I tell you what, and I appreciate everything that they do over there. So once again, we strongly hope that you pass this and get it to $15.25. Thank you very much.
So after Ms. McDowell is Alberto Retana, Maria Elena Durazo, and Kathy Han.
Good morning. My name is Julia Figueroa McDonough. I'm an attorney with the California Division of Labor Standards Enforcement, also known as the Labor Commissioner's Office, or the DLSE. I'm here on behalf of Labor Commissioner Julie Su. Because the law limits our ability to enforce higher local minimum wages, we can hear individual wage claims at a higher local minimum wage, but we cannot issue citations at that higher wage rate. Our partnerships with local labor standards enforcement offices have been essential to achieving meaningful compliance. Our work with the City of San Francisco's OLSC demonstrates how a state and local agency can leverage resources that are limited to maximize the efficacy of a local minimum wage ordinance. The DLSE brings years of collective experience in workplace law and investigation to the table and has offered technical assistance on both legal and logistical issues.
A key component of our success in San Francisco has been the focus on strategic outreach and education. The San Francisco OLSC contracts with local community-based organizations to perform this function, while other municipalities have hired their own staff. Without public awareness of the protections conferred by the minimum wage ordinance, its impact would be severely limited. The Labor Commissioner is committed to supporting the OLSC in any way that it can.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Alberto Retana with Community Coalition. I'm here to speak on a civil rights and racial justice issue of our time. When 42% of African Americans make less than $15.25 an hour, I'm reminded that this is the civil rights issue of our time. We are a nonprofit social justice organization in South Los Angeles. And last year, our outgoing executive director, Marquise Harris Dawson, an incoming city council member, inspired by the labor movement, matched our values with practice and raised the wage to $15 an hour within Community Coalition. If Community Coalition can do it, the city can do it. So let's raise the wage together. Raising the wage to $15 an hour, $15.25, will strike a devastating blow against greed, poverty, and inequality and move our city in the right direction. Join us in the nonprofit social justice movement and move Los Angeles in the right direction. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Marilena Durazo with Unite here, representing hotel and restaurant workers. I applaud the council for moving the issue of raising the minimum wage. It's time. But to be clear, the conversation is about how to raise the wages for all workers with a consumer price index. So when business does better, we do better. But now the California Restaurant Association is leading the charge to create a loophole that means a pay cut for tens of thousands of tip workers in the 11th hour. A surcharge is a tip by any name, period. You would allow employers to take and control the service charge. You are taking workers' pay away from them. You allow employers to use the money left by guests and consumers and customers for the workers to offset wages. You are leading a pay cut for those workers. So we say, don't leave anybody out. Don't cut anybody out. A wage raise for all workers.
Thank you very much. Next speaker. I appreciate everyone's enthusiasm, but we need to move through the speaker cards. Ms. Hong, can you hold us for just a second? I want to call the next series of speakers. Jeremy Blasi, Fatima Murieta, and Carla Tapia. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Huang, and I'm the director of the Restaurant Opportunity Center of Los Angeles. And I thank the council members for their leadership to raise and enforce 15. Effective enforcement can only happen, though, with a simple, clean policy. That's why Rock LA supports one fair wage, and we strongly oppose any type of credit towards the minimum wage, because the minimum wage is supposed to provide a reliable base pay for all workers to meet their basic needs. And it shouldn't be replaced by tips, service charges, employee meal breaks, or anything of the like. Counting service charges also exposes employers to greater liability. It locks in one source of income for one function. In 2013, the San Francisco City Attorney found that restaurants charged $14 million in extra fees to consumers, ostensibly to cover health care, but they found that 2/3 of that money went to other sources. The National Law Employment Project has found that the two-tier wage system increases the wage theft violations by twofold, and we support one fair wage for all workers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Jeremy Blasi. I'm a staff attorney with Unite Here Local 11. As my colleagues have just stated, we think it is crucial to make sure there is no loophole allowing employers to pay workers lower wages by crediting service charges against the minimum wage. As the city attorney has confirmed, under state law, employers cannot credit tips toward compliance with the minimum wage. However, there's nothing in state law to prevent employers from charging patrons a mandatory service charge keeping some of this money for themselves and then crediting any portion given to workers against their minimum wage obligations. In other words, unless the council addresses this issue, employers will be able to do with service charges what they cannot do with tips. If this loophole is not closed, workers in tipped industries like restaurants and car wash could wind up making less money than they're making now. The council has wisely addressed this issue in previous wage legislation, including the Century Corridor Living Wage Ordinance and the City Minimum Wage Ordinance for hotel workers, and we simply ask...
Thank you, sir. Your time's up. Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Fatima Murieta. I support 1525 with enforcement. I'm a first-generation college graduate, and I'm also a young professional. For the last 3 years since graduating from college, I've been juggling 3 jobs to stay afloat financially and to help my mom pay her rent because she simply can't afford it on her minimum wage job. In one of these jobs as a server, I worked tirelessly to protect my tips from my employer. And now I hear of an attempt from the small group of privileged business owners to cut my wages through a service charge loophole. Council members, this isn't right. The proposed service charge loophole will not only drastically cut my wages, but will keep my wages stagnant. This will force me and my family to continue living in poverty. Today, I urge you to say no to cutting my wages through this service charge loophole. Me and thousands of workers deserve a raise, not a cap on our wages.
Ma'am, hold on for just a second. You're Carla Tapia?
Yes.
Next speaker is Juan Moran, Celine Perez, and Juana Anderson. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Carla Tapia, a longtime restaurant server. I absolutely need my tips to live in an expensive city such as LA. A service charge is a tip by another name. If you allow the restaurant companies to take a service charge, you allow them to take our tips. Don't make a last-minute rash change that would amount in a pay cut for me. Don't create a loophole that would leave hundreds of workers behind. Thank you so much.
Good morning, council members. My name is Juan Moran, and I am in favor to raise the minimum wage to $15 with enforcement. I'm a line cook for more than 10 years. I know how hard it is to survive living with a minimum wage. It is so hard that sometimes I have to walk half an hour from work to get to my apartment because money is not enough to pay a ride on the bus, or work 12 hours straight without a stop per day just to pay rent. I live in Boyle Heights. My current workplace is in Little Tokyo. It is not a good idea to count service charge to minimum wage. Customers get confused because they don't know the difference between tips and service charge. Also, it leaves a big chance for owners to take advantage. For example, where I work, the owner kept over $100,000 of our banquet tips. They said it was a service charge, but it wasn't. I'm here to speak on behalf of so many restaurant workers that couldn't make it here. Thank you so much for your time, and God bless you all.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am,
Good morning.
Ma'am, hold on for just a second. Celine Perez,
Yes.
followed by Juana Anderson and Mike Russo. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Celine Perez. I'm the co-director of the Warehouse Worker Resource Center. We work with workers in the good movements industry. I'm here to speak on behalf of Gregorio Ceron, who's a warehouse worker at California Cartage, which is in Wilmington District 15. He's been working there for 7 years, making close to minimum wage through a staff agency. This warehouse is actually on port property that belongs to the city of LA, where the LA Living Wage Ordinance applies, which means that workers should be making more than minimum wage and also receive 12 paid sick days and vacation days a year. This has not been the case for hundreds of workers there. In the case of Gregorio, if he was to call off sick, it would be unpaid and he would be punished for a week of not being allowed to go to work. No person should be in the situation where they have to decide to pay their rent or feed their children as a sole provider for his family. This has been the case for hundreds of workers there. These workers have filed a lawsuit in December to remedy the situation, but what this situation shows is the urgency to have paid sick days and the living wage ordinance.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, thank you all, Madam President and Council, for being here. First, I want to thank the Governor for passing the sick day law for all workers to have at least 2 days, sick days off throughout their working year and increasing more. I am one to go for raise the minimum wage. I am a single mother of 3. I have one in college, one in middle school, one in elementary, and I've been working for over 15 years, and I still struggle right now today. It's hard for me to pay my bills. It's hard for me to get to work due to the economy, and as long as the economy raises, I think that the minimum wage should raise. Thank you.
Yeah. Next speaker, Mike Russo, Alexandra Su, and Juan Hernandez. Is Mike Russo here? How about Alexandra Su?
Yes.
Go ahead, ma'am. Followed by Juan Hernandez and Victor Naro. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Suh, Executive Director of the small nonprofit Koreatown Immigrant Workers Alliance. I thank the Mayor and the City Council for taking up this vitally important issue. Along with one $15 wage and earned leave, my comments address the third leg of the stool, enforcement. Without real enforcement, this historic wage increase means nothing to those who need it the most and hurts honest businesses trying to do the right thing. Almost every municipality that has raised its wage has also established local enforcement agencies. But those agencies succeed at varying levels, and a key factor is partnership with community organizations. KIWA has been assisting workers to file wage claims with the state for 23 years. We and other worker centers ensure that workers who don't yet have a union know their rights. We show them how to access the process. We provide services in language, and we have a deep knowledge of diverse racial and ethnic communities, as well as the specificities of particular low-wage industries. We urge you to ensure the minimum wage raise is a success, and an Office of Labor Standards Enforcement and an equally robust community partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Juan Hernandez, followed by Victor Naro.
Buenos días, señores concejales. Mi nombre es Juan Hernández. He trabajado en la industria de carguas por 9 años.
Hello, everyone. My name is Juan Hernandez, and I have worked in the car wash industry for the last 9 years.
Estoy aquí apoyando a 15 la hora con enforzamiento.
I am here in support of raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour with enforcement.
También estoy apoyando la colaboración de organizaciones para esforzar, porque en mi caso,
I'm also here to support the collaboration with the organizations to enforce, because in my case,
la campaña Clean Car Wash me apoyó desde el 20 de agosto del 2010.
I have received much support from the Clean Car Wash campaign, and it all started in August 20th of 2010.
Yo con 8 trabajadores más fuimos despedidos como represalia porque estábamos reclamando nuestros derechos como trabajadores.
Where 8 other workers and myself were fired because we were asking for our rights at the workplace.
Fue allí donde la organización Clean Car Wash nos dio su apoyo en entrenamiento y entendimos que como trabajadores tenemos derechos.
It was there where we learned from the Clean Car Wash campaign that we had rights. We had many trainings, and we were able to learn more about our workplace rights.
Y nos tuvieron que regresar el trabajo y pagarnos el tiempo que estuvimos despedidos.
We were able to obtain our jobs back, and they also had to pay us for the time that they had us fired.
Después de esto mejoraron muchas cosas en nuestro cargos, y ahora pues todos tenemos más beneficios que lo que teníamos antes.
After going through that experience, many things changed in the car wash industry.
Thank you very much, sir. That concludes your time. Gracias. Next speaker, Victor Narro, followed by Rusty Hicks and Vicky Von Wright. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Victor Narro with the UCLA Labor Center. Fighting wage theft in Los Angeles will require a collective effort. Community partnership must be a major component of the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement. Worker centers, community groups, and legal services organizations can enhance enforcement in many ways. These organizations understand the language, the culture, and industries they operate in Los Angeles, and they can help get the word out to employers and employees alike about the new minimum wage requirements and where to turn to file complaints. Community organizations hear from workers every day about violations occurring in the workplace and can help the city direct its resources to address employers who are violating the laws. These community groups can offer support to workers who have been victimized by wage theft violations, since workers fearing retaliation, especially undocumented workers, may not want to file complaints by themselves. They can interview workers in a safe atmosphere and gather the facts and documents that can help the city in its investigative efforts. Please support community partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Good morning, Madam President and council members. My name is Vicky Von Wright, and I'm a parent leader at Green Dot United Parents. I have been involved in this organization for over a year, and I am very passionate about the work that we are doing. I am very concerned about what the future holds for all those people in my community. I am concerned about hardworking people that are underpaid and spending long hours working to pay bills and take care of their families. This is why many of them have to work more than one job, because minimum wage is not enough. It is sad to think about the children that suffer from the results of this. Many of my family members are affected by this. I feel that increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour would give hope and a better life to many of those that are struggling. I see a brighter future for all those that are earning minimum, that will be earning $15 an hour if the minimum wage is increased. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Rusty Hicks, followed by LaFonza Butler.
Good morning, council members. Rusty Hicks, LA County Federation of Labor and Campaign to Raise the Wage. This has been a long process. It has been a well-studied process. But the time for reports and studies and public comment is finished. It's time for everyone here to vote. It's time for you to vote to raise the wage to $15 an hour by 2020. It's time for you to give a $5.9 billion raise to working Angelenos. It's time for you to put $26.2 million each and every week back into the pockets of workers that is stolen from them in this city. It's time for us to put folks on the path to paid sick days. It is time to raise the wage. 3 last things. A surcharge by a different name is a tip, and it should be treated as such. And a worker deserves a minimum wage, whether they just came off the streets, whether they just came out of prison, or whether they're a veteran trying to get their lives back together. It is time to raise the wage in the city of LA. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Our next speaker is LaFonza Butler, followed by Joseph Hightower. Go ahead.
Good morning, Council, Council President, members. I rise today as a co-convener of the Raise the Wage campaign and also as the president of the SEIU United Long-Term Care Workers. I want to celebrate the leadership of the Economic Development Committee for bringing such a comprehensive proposal for your consideration. I want to congratulate all of you who will vote on moving 700,000 Angelenos and their families out of poverty. Contrary to what was said earlier, the soul of Los Angeles are its workers. The soul of Los Angeles soul of Los Angeles are the hardworking men and women that make businesses, small or large, great each and every day. And a little known fact is that there are 140,000 home care workers that won't be moved by anything you do today. They won't get a sick day. They won't get a $1 wage increase. They won't get their wages enforced. But by you acting today, you say to other cities, you say to the county, that every worker deserves to make $15 an hour, every worker deserves to have sick pay, and every worker deserves to have their wages enforced. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you very much. And the last speaker in favor of this item is Joseph Hightower.
Los Angeles. But again, my name is Joseph Hightower, carpenter by trade, brief work history, love working in the city. My keys today are going to be that we all need a chance to get a check, that this check isn't going to all bills. This check, I can take some of it out and I can take care of my family. I can do something special for my family. All of my life, I've been living check to check. I have boots, but I've never owned a suit. And I think there's a problem with that. Amen. All I want to do is take care of my family without the aid of the county. I want to take care of my family by the sweat and the toil on my back and what I do for an employer. And I just want to be compensated for what I give to an employer. I want an employer to return to me the same.
That's right.
If I'm giving you 100%, just meet me and give me 100%. That's all I'm asking. And with the minimum wage being what it is right now, it's not 100%. Also, I'm urging Congress, the people of Los Angeles, the councilmen.
Could you wrap it up?
To create and establish an office to help us enforce these
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. City Attorney, that concludes public comment on this issue. No, it was 30 minutes for both sides. 25 minutes for both sides. So at this point, I think I'd like to defer to Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think there have been a number of amendments proposed. Perhaps it would be appropriate to hear them at this time.
Okay, well, why don't we engage with the clerk, and maybe you could walk us through the amendment that was just circulated. Yes, Mr. Parks.
Just ask one quick question. Before we go to the amendments, do we have a chance to ask questions?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, what we want to do is let individuals know what is the proposed package with the amendments, and then we'll go into a period of question and answers. So, Mr. Price, we want to just defer to the clerk at this point.
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. President, 3 amendments have been circulated. First amendment is Amendment 4C, which adds to item 4BH, anti-discrimination. There's Amendment 4D, which adds an exemption, an 18-month exemption for Homeboy, Los Angeles Conservation Corp., and Chrysalis for a maximum of 18 months if and when providing transitional jobs for the hardest to employ and are certified by the Department of Public Works, Bureau of Contract Administration as outlined in Los Angeles Administration Code Section 1031-3C with additional criteria to require 501c3 status, subsidize employment that is equal or greater to the minimum wage, and 90% of job placement is within the City of Los Angeles. And there is Amendment 4E. Amendment 4E would amend item 4A in the following recommendations. 1, to request the city attorney to prepare and present an ordinance to establish a citywide minimum wage with the following provisions. A, beginning in 2016, the minimum wage in the City of Los Angeles will increase annually as follows. July 1, 2016 to $10.50. July 1, 2017 to $12. July 1, 2018 to $13.25, July 1, 2019 to $14.25, July 1, 2020 to $15. B, beginning in 2017, a modified minimum wage schedule for businesses and nonprofits with 25 or fewer employees will be established as follows. July 1, 2017 to $10.50, July 1, 2018 to $12, July 1, 2019 to $13.25, July 1, 2020 to $14.25, and July 1, 2021 to $15. The size of a business or nonprofit will be determined by the average number of employees over the previous calendar year. C, nonprofit organizations with greater than 25 employees can apply for a waiver through the Department of Public Works, Bureau of Contract Administration, if their top executive earns less than 5 times the wage of the lowest paid worker, or provide transitional jobs programs, or serve as child care providers, or are primarily funded by city, county, state, or federal grants or reimbursements. The waiver process will be established by the Bureau of Contract Administration. D, beginning July 1, 2022, the minimum wage will be increased annually at a rate consistent with the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers for the Los Angeles metropolitan area, which is published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This rate will be established by the Bureau of Contract Administration and announced on January 1st of every year. E, consistent with state law, the youth wage should stay at 85% of minimum wage for 160 hours for workers 14 to 17 years of age. F, require a study conducted by the Chief Legislative Analyst with the assistance of the City Administrative Officer every 3 years of the minimum wage implementation to review the state of the city's economy, impacts of the minimum wage, textile and apparel manufacturing impacts, temps, guards, and janitors impacts, home health care services impacts, residential care and nursing facilities impacts, child daycare services impacts, restaurants and bars impacts, personal and repair services impacts, transitional jobs programs impacts, service charges, commissions, and guaranteed gratuities impacts, and wage theft enforcement, and to collect economic data, including jobs, earnings, and sales tax on an annual basis beginning in 2015. Recommendation number 2 is to instruct the Chief Legislative Analyst to report back to the Economic Development Committee on Tuesday, June 23, 2015, with an analysis of California's Healthy Workplace, Healthy Family Act of 2014, and provide recommendations for a sick leave policy for all employees who work in the City of Los Angeles. Furthermore, instruct the Chief Legislative Analyst to provide a comparison with the City of Oakland and City of San Francisco's sick leave policies, as well as other California cities that have a similar policy to help shape any recommendations. 3, instruct the Chief Legislative Analyst to report back to the Economic Development Committee with an analysis of mandatory service charges, commissions, and guaranteed gratuities utilized in the City of Los Angeles, and include options for a policy that protects employees. Furthermore, instruct the Chief Legislative Analyst to provide a comparison with state law in other California cities that have requirements with regard to service charges, commissions, and guaranteed gratuities, describing in detail any policies that protects employees. The intent of the City Council will be to act on this issue prior to the implementation of the minimum wage ordinance. Mr. President, those are the 3 amendments before Council.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank the committee for all of this hard work, and thank you, Mr. Price, for your hard work as well. At this point in time, I'd like to defer to Mr. Bonin.
Mic on? There you go. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues. Colleagues, today is a very important day. The step that I think that by the end of the afternoon we will have taken, raising 800,000 people out of poverty in Los Angeles, is huge. And it certainly will be a cause for applause and for celebration, but I actually don't feel particularly celebratory today. I feel this is a very solemn occasion because of the reason we need to be raising the wage in the first place, is that we have a cancer in the city of Los Angeles called poverty, and it is eating and destroying this city. And as long as the ceiling keeps raising and the floor keeps falling because of rising costs of housing and food, the city can't long survive with a wage gap like that. It means children don't have their parents at home at night because they're working 2 jobs. It means our streets are clogged with traffic because people can't afford to live close enough to where they work. It means small businesses don't benefit because people don't have any money to put into the economy. So raising the wage to $15 is the least we can do. It is the very least that we can do. It is the least that we can do for our workers. It's the least that we can do for our economy. And it's the least that we can do for an ailing Los Angeles that cannot survive with this gripping poverty. I wish today were a day where we were rushing to the top. I wish today was a day when we were coming in with amendments trying to raise the wage more, or raise the wage sooner, or have a more comprehensive package. But I understand many members have concerns, and I appreciate that. I've been surprised to see that the paid leave suddenly became an issue and was characterized as a surprise, because I went to all of the hearings, and I heard from at least 50% of the workers who testified that paid leave was an issue for them. It may not have had rebuttal from the opponents, but that was an issue which was very much alive in these hearings. And I, for one, don't understand why someone would want the waiter or the cook who prepares the food for your children and family at a Sunday brunch to have to go to work sick. I don't understand it. I also understand the service charge issue is one for concern and that will be deferred. That one confuses me as well. As someone said, a service charge is just another name for a tip. And it's important that this isn't just about restaurants. This isn't just about the waiter at Bottega Louie. This is the folks who work at car washes who get tips. This is the folks who work at a Denny's and get tips. This is the folks who work at a nail salon and get tips. And to me, it's a big irony that we're going to be voting today to create a wage enforcement prevention and prosecution mechanism on a day when we effectively are deferring on this loophole and allowing wage theft. I put a motion in today. I don't think what we're doing is going far enough, so along with Mr. Price and Ms. Martinez, we've submitted a motion, which I understand will go to committee, which will ask us to close that loophole, and will make our policy on service charges consistent with our policy on tips, so that employers cannot take that. This is, as I said, a solemn day, but it is a big day, and a day to really celebrate and be proud that we're taking a major step forward. But for me, this sort of issue began even before I was born, when Dr. King in the mid-'60s tried to get the minimum wage raised to $2 an hour. Adjusted for inflation, $2 an hour then would be $15 and some cents today. We are not doing
let's
enough.
wrap it up.
Yes, I will. Thank you, sir. We are not doing enough. Just as the promise of civil rights has not been fully realized, the promise of economic and social justice has not been fully realized. Today is a big step, but today we have really only just begun. Thank you.
Mr. Koretz.
President, I don't think I'm going to tell anybody here exactly what they want to hear. I can say first, I come from a labor family. My father was a longtime active member of HERE before it was HERE, Local 17 before it was Local 11. And the first thing I learned was never cross a picket line. Literally the first thing I ever learned. So, and I'm a pro-labor guy. I've been the chair of the Assembly Labor Committee for 6 years in the state legislature. And I would love to say, let's make it $15 right now. But I'm not going to ask for that, and not for a political reason. We're doing this because we have to pull people out of poverty. But I believe if we don't do this right, we will put some people in poverty. We want to be sure we do the most good and the least harm. We don't want to put a lot of businesses out of business. We don't want to have nonprofits have to let people go. So we are trying to hit that sweet spot where we do the best of everything. And I have to admit, colleagues, this is an experiment. If anyone tells you they know exactly how this is going to go and exactly where we can do this without any harm, I don't think they'll be honest with you. We're all taking our best shot at this. I was willing to take that shot because Nobody can live well in Los Angeles, or even barely passingly well, on $9 an hour. This is an expensive city. And they sure as hell can't live on $5 an hour, and there are plenty of people doing that too because they're cheated out of their wages. And we have to resolve both of those things. I think there are some fine points. One, we're debating the CPI. We've looked at all kinds of different proposals. At the end of the day, pick where you want the value to be. We're saying $15 an hour on a certain date, and keep it there. If you cap it, the value will slowly go down, and at some point, our $15 an hour will be $14.50. Well, if you want it to be $14.50, pick $14.50, and then follow the CPI. And go wherever it leads you. It's going to be worth $15 an hour in the wages 10 years from now. If it goes up, if it goes down, I think that's the way to handle it. I support a teen wage. I think if you look carefully at the research, I've seen that when they viewed the 100 largest metropolitan areas in the country, LA had the worst employment rate for teens. And I think we don't want to exacerbate that. So I support a teen rate. I'm open to even increasing it a little bit. On sick days, I think we all knew there were going to be some substantial sick days. I'm not sure whether everybody understood how many we were talking about, and I'm not sure that piece got a lot of research. So I think we need to study it, come back with a decent number of sick days. I don't know if it'll be 12. I don't have any opinion, but it'll be something substantial. And you don't want restaurant workers coming in sick, and if you give no sick days or even 3, that'll happen. You don't want your supermarket workers coming in sick and handling food. See, even just for our own safety, you want a decent number of sick days, so I support that.
Time, Mr. Koretz, watch it.
Can I add one more point?
Yep.
The service charge, I think, is a little bit of a tougher issue, and specifically for restaurants, which run on a small margin. So we clearly want to lift people out of poverty. I don't think we're compelled to have a waiter who's making $30 an hour, and I come from a family that relied on the tips of waiters to move them up to 36. If we had a way to put that money back into the cash flow of the restaurants, I think we'll keep more places open and more jobs. I knew you wouldn't like that.
Wrap it up.
I have to say, though, I looked at this issue carefully, and it's very complicated. So if this is in any way a pay cut, I won't support it. If it in any way increases wage theft, I won't support it. If it's too confusing, if it applies to low-wage industries like car washes rather than restaurants, I won't support it. If in any way this looks like it harms employees, I won't support it. But if we find a perfect way to do it, I'm at least open to studying this issue, which there is a motion to do. I think we should look at it. But for now, I think wages should go to employees.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Mr. Labange?
Staff at the center table, just a couple of questions as you come up there. First, I think it's a real important component that we work with the Los Angeles Community College District and also LA Unified Adult Education to help all people have an opportunity to get a better education, whatever station they are in life. Also, I want to ask a question about the federal jobs that come in every summer. Are we going to be required, is it whatever the federal government wage is, or what is the wage for our summer youth workers? Just want to know with this.
It would actually have no impact for this year. Next year, for teen workers, it would place it at 85% for the first 160 hours as proposed in motion 4E.
What if you're a county youth worker in the city of Los Angeles? Does it have a difference? If you're working at a county park within the city of Los Angeles, does that have any difference? Or a state institution in Los Angeles, does the city of Los Angeles wage affect state or county governments?
So the city wage is the city wage. The county is actually also looking at potentially increasing the minimum wage as well.
Right.
I can't address what the county is looking at as it relates to what they're going to do with their youth workers.
I think it's very important because some of us have city borders where you, Mr. Bonin, you have cities all around you, including the big Pacific Ocean. Burbank, Glendale, West Hollywood surrounds the 4th District, etc., as we go forward there. A high school wage, if you could explain that. Could you explain the youth wage now and in the future? Is there any differential between someone who is 15, 16 years old to get a job in high school?
So as proposed in motion 4E, it indicates that those youth workers aged 14 to 17 would make 85% of the minimum wage for the first 160 hours of their employment.
And then what would happen?
Then it would go to some other rate as determined by the minimum wage that you would have established.
Yeah, I just think it's real important for youth workers. I started young, and it was a great opportunity that I think you should look at that as we go forward. The other question is, I think the West Valley Boys and Girls Club representative spoke about that. Not-for-profits, okay? Let me talk about not-for-profits. And I think Homeboy is in that category as well as Christmas and others. They don't pay a business tax, correct?
That is correct.
So if they don't pay a business tax, should we look at that? Because we're going to study this, right? Mr. Price, are we studying this? If you're not paying a business tax, maybe there's a category. Because there's nobody who does more than those who do it for just the love of what they do, whether they're working at a Boys and Girls Club or they're working at some other not-for-profit. If you could look at that, there's a category that says they don't pay business tax, then maybe there's a category that you could help them on their wage. Much of this, and I think Mr. Koretz, you spoke eloquently on all accounts, and I think it really represents your diverse district and the need to raise the wage, but at the same time, understanding small business. I think those are some things I do want to put on the table as we go forward and look at this. I do think we have to make our Office of Small Businesses more accessible and stronger, and I think, Mr. Chairman, we got to budget more for the Office of Compliance. And John Reamer, stand up, because you're the man who's going to be responsible. John, Head of Contract Administration, if this passes, you're going to have a lot of work on your hands. So I wanted to have you smile a little more, at least one last time. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. But that's real important. We support contract administration because it is not effective in our districts. If you look at the diversity of businesses on streets throughout Los Angeles, unless we have the right compliance as we go forward. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Cedillo. Gilbert? Why don't we switch to Mr. Bloomingfield, and then when Cedillo returns,
Okay.
go right ahead.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this proposal. President Kennedy said famously, a rising tide raises all boats. And that's what this is about. For too long, the wages have been too low. And as we mentioned, and many folks mentioned, this is about a $5.9 billion raise, 800,000 people. This is about moving people out of poverty. It's unconscionable for someone to be able to work full-time and still live in grinding poverty. That's why I'm very excited about this proposal that we're moving forward. And I have been at the beginning. I've had a number of concerns, and I'm pleased that a lot of these concerns, some of the major concerns, are addressed in the amendments that are put forward. One concern is making sure that we're data-driven, that we're following what's going on. We had 3 different economic studies, and we spent a lot of time looking at the economies. And 3 different studies came up with 3 different ideas. One study said the sky is going to fall and we're going to lose all these jobs. Another study said basically earnings are going to go up, but it's going to be offset to some extent by jobs. And then the third study said no, earnings are going to go up and jobs are going to go up because people are going to have more money in their pocket. That money is going to go on the street, and it's going to be a rising tide. And I hope and pray that the third option is what happens. But nobody really knows what the impact is going to be. And I've been pushing all along that we have some sort of monitoring and review, and I'm pleased that we included that in this proposal. So that we're doing this, we have the schedule, we're moving forward, but we're going to look very carefully at the economics so that if we need to make adjustments, if there's something that we need to do for a particular industry, a policy to help make sure that all workers are benefiting out of this, we can do that. And that's one of the improvements I think that was put in this bill, which I feel very good about in terms of having more monitoring in there. And I want to thank the people at UCLA Anderson Forecast because they spent a lot of time working with me on that issue and looking at the earnings and how we can predict that and how we can measure that in the future. This is an exciting policy. We want to measure it not only for ourselves, but so that we can show the rest of the state and the rest of the country, and we can lead the way. Another area had to do with nonprofits. A number of nonprofits came to me with concerns about, they want to raise the wage, but they're concerned about the initial shock to them, and could they get a little bit more running room? Groups that, like Valley Village in my district, where they serve severely disabled people, and they were worried that if they didn't have enough time to go back to the state and the feds to get their reimbursement rates increased, they might have to cut off services of very, very vulnerable people. So we're able to create in this a slight phase-in, which is going to help some of those nonprofits. It's going to help some groups like the Boys and Girls Club that said if they don't have enough time to raise the money, they might have to cut off certain housing projects in the area. So that's very good. I'm also very pleased about that we have the wage theft piece of it. That is critical. We're going to move forward with this ambitious policy. We need to be there with strong wage theft protections. So I'm very pleased about that, about the changes that have been made. I want to thank Chairman Price. I want to thank Council President Wesson and really everybody who has been working to make some accommodations for some of these issues on the edge. But overall, we need to roll forward with raising the wage and lifting people out of poverty, which is what this is about. Thank you.
Mr. Cedillo.
Then we go for 4B, which is the enforcement.
Mr. Cedillo.
Mr. President, thank you. Just a few comments. You know, we're making an important step today, an effort to raise many Angelenos out of poverty. And we're doing so in a bold way, one in which perhaps the greatest transfer in this city of wealth to those who are at the bottom of the pay scale. And so we should embrace that and celebrate that for the incredible victory it is for so many of the working poor who live in this city. I do so with great enthusiasm, but I also do so with some concern. There are risks involved. There's going to be challenges with respect to how fast we go. I was concerned that all the economic reports that were brought forward to us and the reviews by the person who evaluated them had no guidance for us as we went further and faster. And so I want to make sure that this is a good thing for all the working men and women of the city. But I have a concern that we don't create more unemployment. It's a very real and sincere concern that I have, because no job doesn't work. It's that simple. Let me say one comment to our concern about those who wish they had a job. Right? This is a conversation in some respects between the man with old shoes complaining to the man with no feet. There are young men and women in this city who wish they can have a job, right? Who wish that they had a second chance, who for whatever reasons need more than a job. They need a helping hand. Some of them need their tattoos removed. Some of them need some training in anger management. Some a GED. Some are going to apply for a job and want to make sure there's not a box there. Some need some basic experiences that you would think that most people would have but don't. And so while I'm an idealist, I'm also a pragmatist. And I recognize that reality. In fact, that was the first job I talked to you about that I came out of college. I worked right here on 4th and Los Angeles. I worked for Volunteers of America, helping young men and women get job training so that they could have a job, so they could be successful. And so those young men and women deserve a second chance. And all of them deserve a second chance. And so we must give due consideration and due respect to programs we know are successful. Programs we have codified in our municipal charter. Programs that say if you're helping the least of us, that you can do so with acknowledgement and recognition of all the services that you pay. And so I want to thank all my colleagues who have stepped forward and said that we recognize as great examples Homeboy and Chrysalis and LACC, but all the other programs, the programs in San Pedro, the programs on the western edge of the city, the programs in South Los Angeles and the Valley, those who look at the least of these, those who have the greatest challenges, that a job and the requirements of going to work every day are bigger challenges than most of us. That sobriety is a bigger challenge than most of us. That anger management is something that we have to work with. That those who have those challenges deserve a second chance, deserve a hand up, deserve recognition and acknowledgement, and they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect as all these other workers do.
Check your time.
They deserve nothing less. But they can't get that if the program doesn't exist. And in this instance, Mr. President, you know this to be true. And that's why I thank you for your support, that they must receive some consideration, some exemption, so that they can be successful and make sure that all God's children that are sitting here in these aisles today are taken care of. Thank you, Mr.
Well
President.
said, Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much. I just had several questions. I was wondering if the staff could respond to them. I've tried to read almost everything that people have published, but I can't find any real good information on. We read about possibly 800,000 jobs being lifted out of poverty in the city, but we hear business say that will correspond with the loss of jobs. Do we have any way to calculate what that could be? The only figure I've been able to find is the last time that the federal government raised the minimum wage. They say 900,000 people nationwide were moved out of poverty, but that equated to 700,000 lost jobs. Do we have any figures locally that can give us an idea of what that impact would be?
Have those numbers now because it's not in effect, but we did get 3 different studies that did reach 3 very different conclusions. As a result of that, all 3 of our economists actually recommended that the city, if we were to go forward on a minimum wage policy, to have very good evaluation and monitoring in terms of the impacts of implementing a minimum wage. They also highlighted that what we really need to do is establish a very good baseline for that data gathering. So that is something we're going to have to look at and evaluate and monitor as we go forward on this. The peer review that we did do as a result of Mr. Price's instruction to us did identify that there were differences in the 3 studies. One study may have looked at countywide job loss, and as a result, the number was much, much larger. There was another study that estimated that there would be no job loss. In fact, there would be job creation based on the consumer price, more consumers spending money. Then there was the middle of the road study that identified that there would be some job loss in the city, but when looked at as part of the entire county, that there would actually be a little bit of job growth.
Okay. The one thing, when we were dealing with the hotel ordinance recently, the hotel owners came in and said, if implemented, it would be clearly about 1,400 to 1,500 jobs lost. Did that ever come to fruition, or did we study that at all?
So the hotel minimum wage ordinance has not gone into effect yet. Okay. That will go into effect on July 1.
Okay. Then let me ask you one other. Did we do any on the 800,000 that we're saying could be positively impacted? Do we know how many of those actually live in the city? Because one of the concerns is whether we are enhancing employees that do not live in the city versus those who might live in the city, we'd get even greater benefit if they would spend their money and lived in the city.
I believe one of the studies did address that, but right now I can't remember the percentage. Maybe John Wickham of our office recalls, but there was a percentage that they identified that there would be job creation creation in both the city and county, and I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 25%.
No, I was just wondering if people that are going to
25%.
not creation, but the people that are actually working that would get benefit of the living wage, how many of them live in the city?
I have that number. I need to look it up.
All right, if you can get that to me. The other thing I was wondering about, when we hear the figure $8 billion of revenue that might go in the pockets of employees, does that take into the full picture of avoiding compression if entry level is getting these dollars, or if they're supervisors? Does that include what could occur with the compression of higher levels in the organization, or is that mainly looking at entry level?
Mr. Parks, are you referring to city employees that would be impacted by the...
No, what we've heard just in conversation, that about $8 billion would be put into the employment pool to enhance current employees. And I'm just wondering, is that number covering the compression of salaries as people are in the organization? Does it cover the Social Security? Does it cover the other overhead costs as it relates to these employees that are in the workforce?
Again, as the CLA indicated, the various studies looked at different aspects of it. The bottom line is in relation to being able to answer that question with all certainty is that at this point in time we can't answer it with all certainty. That I think the three various studies clearly indicated that there's an element of uncertainty that we're moving forward on. And that's why the recommendation in the motion 1F is so critical and consistent with our recommendation that there be ongoing analysis to determine the impact of this
Watch
proposal.
your time, Mr. Parks.
Okay, just two questions. Yeah. Okay, let me just ask one of the, from looking at the analysis from the city attorney, is in the discussion about service charges, is there a requirement that the employer impose a service requirement, or is that also voluntary?
Voluntary.
It's voluntary. My final thing is this. I'd ask that we, and maybe ask for motion, that in addition to all the things that are in the amending motion, that we ask economic and workforce development along with the workforce centers to be added to the future studies to determine if the job creation component that they are involved with also is in full efforts to ensure that we have the minimum job loss.
Mr. Krikorian.
Yeah, I second that, Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Members, my mom dropped out of high school, and most of her life she waited tables. And so when I was growing up, being raised by a single mom who was waiting tables, I knew well what it meant to depend on a minimum wage job and tips to put food on the table. That was how I was raised. And because of what my mom was able to do, I became the first one in my family who got to go to college, and I was able to do better than she was able to do. So I understand this issue pretty well from a personal level. I remember what it was like hearing her describe her experiences at work, dealing with drunks, dealing with disrespectful customers, having to work late every night when she'd rather be home. I get this issue. And I also get that if I were having that upbringing right now, today, here in Los Angeles, it would be a lot harder. It would be a whole lot harder to raise a family now doing what she did than it was then, because minimum wage has not kept up with the cost of living, with the cost of housing, with the cost of transportation, or any of the other costs that we all have to bear. So it is time that we take on what Mr. Bonin described as that cancer of poverty. It's time that we lift people who are at the bottom and help them get a leg up so that they can start getting back into the middle class that has been decimated throughout this country. So I get also that many people here, many of us around the Horseshoe, many of the people who are here today to testify are dissatisfied with one part or another of what we're talking about. I get that. There's a reason for that. It's because this is hard, sophisticated, difficult policy making. It's because we're making policy that affects 4 million people, 700,000 people who are making under $13 an hour now. Many different kinds of businesses, ranging from businesses that have one employee to businesses that have thousands of employees. Many different kinds of nonprofit organizations, from those who are serving people with services, like wraparound services like we heard today, to those who are not. From big ones to small ones. It's hard, difficult policy making. So if you expect everything to go your way, you're coming to the wrong place, because that's not going to work in a city of this size. But I will say this. This has been one of the best dialogues I can remember in this council for a long time. And all of you who've been here, hearing after hearing, public meeting after public meeting, you've provided substantive input to this policy. You've made a difference. All of you who are here today, you've made a difference. And we're not done. As you've heard today, many of the issues that we're talking about are going to continue to be discussed. Your continuing engagement and role is going to be vital in helping us to get through that process. But I want to thank all of you who are here, and all of my colleagues for the incredible substantive input, the hard-fought debates that we've had that are producing, I think, a very, very effective policy that's before you today. Because make no mistake, folks, even those of you who may be dissatisfied with one part or another, today the city of Los Angeles, the second biggest city in our nation, is leading our nation by raising the minimum wage to over $15 an hour. We are giving a raise to 700,000 people who are living at the bottom. We're implementing protections for our smallest businesses so that they can continue to employ people and give people an opportunity. And for the first time in the history of this city, we're taking action against wage theft by creating an agency of this city that will protect workers and make sure they get paid what they're entitled to. This is a reason to celebrate, people. The vote that we're going to take today is reason to celebrate. So, members, I ask for your aye vote on item 4 as it's been amended as proposed by Mr. Price and the others who have signed the amendment.
Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, from the very beginning of this conversation, when the proposal for raising the minimum wage in Los Angeles was made back on Labor Day of last year, I have been 100% supportive of raising the minimum wage. From the very beginning, I've also called for a thoughtful, balanced approach in the dialogue that has landed us to this place today, where we are about to really make landmark legislation for the city of Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, we have gotten there, but there is work to do. I also think that the dialogue, the conversations, the hearings that I called for from the very beginning took place, and we heard lots of well-informed, passionate comments from everyone, from businesses to raise the wage individuals who are part of this movement. And I listened to every single comment that was made at every single hearing, and I'm glad I did. And I want to thank everyone who participated in that process. One of the groups that we heard from loud and clear every single time was from our full-service restaurants. We know that in many instances, the profit margins are razor thin. We know that in many instances, especially during the Great Recession, several of our full-service restaurants made no profit whatsoever for years at a time. We know that that is a challenge, especially in this industry. We also know that in terms of tipped employees, that the federal government and the state government considers tips part of wages, and that restaurants pay taxes on those wages. in addition to other payroll taxes, which gets them way above the current minimum as is when you calculate the payroll taxes involved. We also know that there are limitations in price elasticity in terms of what restaurants can charge on the menu items. The average customer will reach a limit in terms of what more they're willing to pay for a menu item. And anyone who has managed or owned a restaurant for any amount of time understands that principle. We also know that currently state law allows the service charge. Make no mistake about it. In some instances, perhaps it is used as a loophole, but in the overwhelming majority of instances, it is not. And I'll give you an example. One very prominent restaurateur charges a 3% service charge and applies 100% of the 3% service charge to cover health care for his employees. And he owns several restaurants. So I am supportive of exploring the service charges in terms of restaurants and how we can, or if we choose to or choose not to, impose regulations on that. But just know that in the effort to support our businesses, and especially our full-service restaurants, we need to be very, very mindful of making sure that we don't take away some of the last remaining tools that they have that are allowed by state. So I look forward to that discussion, and I look forward to that evaluation. Also, just keep in mind, 3/4 of all city employees are employed by small businesses across the board. So it's of utmost importance, as has been explained by several of our colleagues today, that we take extra precaution and care in our thoughtful way forward on that. Also, I am fully supportive of oversight against wage theft. We know that it occurs. We know the hit in the pocketbook in our working families, that it's devastating. It's a crime. I'm fully supportive of enacting measures. If we're going to enact a minimum wage in LA, we better make sure that we do it comprehensively and that we provide oversight for our employees. And just for the record, it's over half, over 50% of the employees that will receive a minimum wage increase do not live in the city of Los Angeles. They live in the county, so over half. And I still am very supportive of this, and I really am grateful for the flexibility and the open-mindedness of most of my colleagues in terms of taking a look at all of this. It's more important that we get it right than anything else, that we move forward in a balanced approach, that we help lift our families out of poverty while also making sure that what we do does not result in job loss at the same time. And lastly, and this is very, very important, and I've said this at every hearing and I'm going to say it again, the elephant in this room is the lack of affordable housing in the city of Los Angeles. We have to tackle it. It's the biggest crisis we have, and we need to move on that, and I'm confident that we will, because all of my colleagues at this horseshoe understand that, and we are going to do affordable housing in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Parks.
I would just like to make a couple of comments. Is that certainly, like everyone else, I have a number of concerns, such as one of the ones that keeps coming back is that we increase the payroll, but is it getting in the hands of the employees? 50% of the people that are going to be impacted positively do not live in the city. There's a potential job loss versus the time delay that it would cause us to study that job loss. And there's currently a lack of job stimulation. But even with all that in mind, and I think what Mr. Krikorian said, it's not where everybody's going to get everything. It is still my personal opinion that the new minimum wage ordinance needs to be implemented, must be measured, spread over several years, surgical enough to benefit the truly needed, but avoid benefiting those employees that are on minimum wage plus commission. It should also concentrate on the city's economy and employees who are residents of the city of Los Angeles, truly balance the need of both business owners and employees, and be accompanied by an extensive job creation program which may include both minimum wage and wages below minimum wage. And so that's my opinion, and I would hope that we pass that. But I think there's a lot of things to keep studying and hope that we do not create more harm than good.
Ms. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's taken us 9 months, 8 Economic Development Committee meetings, 4 hearings across the city, 3 studies, and 1 peer review to get here today. I've said this before in committee and in the hearings, that it doesn't take a study to tell you what it feels like to be poor. And it also doesn't take a study to tell you what it feels like to grow up with a father who made $13,000 a year as a dishwasher for 30 years. And a study won't tell you what it feels like as a 17-year-old to come home and her factory mom tell her that her $13 an hour job was going to be gone because the factory was moving to another country. A study isn't going to tell us that, Mr. President. So we need to be a city who isn't comfortable with its housekeepers, people who wash our toilets, prepare our food, wash our dishes, who take care of our gardens and take care of our children. We can't be a city that is comfortable with these folks making less than a decent wage. It is unacceptable. It is not okay. And we need to be a city that needs to be better than that. $15 an hour is $31,200 a year by 2020. That's what we're talking about. I dare some of you live on $31,000 a year. Try it. It's hard. Mr. President, I think we have done our due diligence as a committee member of the Economic Development Committee. We have heard from both sides. This is a difficult discussion and painful for some people, but we have to be a city that is willing to stand up for the working poor. So I call for the question. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, is there a second for calling the question?
Okay, so now it looks like it's time to just move forward and take the vote. I'm just kind of explaining that. Okay, so it would be with
Martinez, I take back my second. Mr. Price wants to close.
Okay, then let's do this. It's Mr. Are you okay? Mr. Price to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want you to know what an honor it has been for me as chair of the Economic Development Committee to join with you in this robust discussion of raising the wage. I wanted to just acknowledge that there have been many heads and many hearts in this discussion over the past several months. Our mayor opened the discussion early on, discussing about the importance of raising the wage. We've had engagement from the business community, from everyday working people, and from my colleagues around the horseshoe. It's clear that raising the wage is one tool of addressing the issues around poverty and income disparity. It's not the silver bullet. It's just one of the tools that we have to employ. The discussion about better jobs, about housing, social services, all come into play. Nevertheless, we are embarking upon, I think, the most progressive minimum wage policy anywhere in the country. And we should be doing it here in LA. Don't you agree? All right. We've had studies. We've had 4 studies. We've had hearings. We've had conversations around raising the wage. Raising the wage for the most vulnerable in our society, those at the very bottom. I think we've been sensitive to concerns of small businesses. Like some of you, I've had a small business, and so I understand the challenges of signing the check on both sides and about making sure that businesses are able to adhere to regulatory issues, do their marketing, make the payroll, and still make a profit. And so we're sensitive to the concerns of small businesses, sensitive to the concerns of the nonprofits that do an extraordinary job throughout the city. And those special organizations that provide services like Homeboy, Chrysalis, Conservation Corps. I think we've tried to achieve the balance and achieve the recognition that everybody has an important role to play, especially those organizations that provide life skills and counseling and rehabilitation and making sure that individuals can come back into the workforce. We've taken some concerns about monitoring. We've heard concerns raised by members around the Horseshoe and others that we have to monitor this increase. And we have to give it some time so we have some figures to figure out exactly what the impact is going to be, and it should be a thorough discussion. We know we've got to provide enforcement of this regulation in a whole variety of ways, including concerns about anti-discrimination. We have to address those issues and concerns as well. Now, while we've done a lot, there's still a lot to do. Still a lot more to be done. Our committee is going to be taking another look at issues around service charges and how those funds should be allocated, about sick days, about transitional employees. So we still have some real work to do. Your involvement, your participation, your support is continue to be. We continue to solicit your ideas and your suggestions as we move forward. Our goal, obviously, is to do the most good and the least harm. And I'm confident that we can do that. It is a leap of faith. This policy is, to some degree, led by our hearts and led by the facts that we have to do all we can to address the issues of poverty, income disparity in our city at this time. And we have a moral obligation to do so. And so, Mr. Chair, I ask for an aye vote on the committee.
Chair, Mr. Price.
Mr. President.
Thank you.
I ask for an aye vote on the committee's recommendations and the amendments, and all the amendments that have been offered at this time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Madam Clerk, I want to have you help me as we go through this item. I think on items 4C and 4D, we want to refer those requests to the Economic Development Committee without objection. Mr. Cedillo.
That tells me, can we put that on a certain date of June 23rd?
Mr. Price, is that it? Mr. Price says fine. So that's what we'll do. Refer that item, and that will be the date that we bring it up. The next vote, Madam Clerk, will be to incorporate, what was that, the word Economic Development Corporation, or?
Mr. President, the next vote would be on the Parks Labange motion to amend.
Which does what?
It amends recommendation 1F of motion 4B to add a request to the Economic and Workforce Development Department through their work source centers to study job creation in an effort to minimize job loss.
Okay, so on that effort, Madam Clerk, no objections to that. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes, 1 no.
Okay, now we are voting on, is it 4E, which is the bulk of the, or the super amendment?
Yes, Mr. President, 4E as amended by the Parks Labange motion.
All right, so members, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes, 1 no.
Now that brings us where?
Mr. President, now council should vote on 4A as amended by 4E, which has been amended by the Parks Labange motion.
Okay, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes,
Now
1
we
no.
move to what I believe is to be the last vote. That's 4B, and this deals with wage theft, or?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. On this item, members, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes, 1
That
no.
passes. I want to thank everybody for all of the work that you've put in on this item. Madam Clerk, forthwith. Again, I do think it's important that we thank all of the city staff, the CAO's office, CLA, all of the council staff, business, labor. This whole issue's been like holding water in your hand, very challenging, but I do want to congratulate all of you. This was a very phenomenal piece of work. That brings us where, Madam Clerk?
Mr. President, that brings council back to general public comment.
Okay, well, so that leads us where? To posting and referrals?
Yes, Mr. President, council has motions for posting and referral.
They consider them posted and referred. Next.
The desk is clear.
Okay, announcements. I do not see any announcements. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this week, in addition to the other stuff that we're working on, we hopefully will be approving the city's budget. So I just want to urge all members, if you have amending motions that you would like to submit, please get them in early. You can get them into the CLA today or tomorrow, but if you get them in, we will have a packet of amending motions that we'll be able to vote on instead of waiting for them to come from the back during the process. So please, I urge you, get your motions in right away.
Thank you. In fact, if I could just get a little quiet. Shh. Members, you remember when we dealt on the budget last year, a lot of you really put forth the effort to get your motions in quickly. So I just want to reinforce what Mr. Krikorian said. So if you want to add something, today is the day, tomorrow is the day to do it. Okay, can everybody please rise? Everybody please rise for adjourning motions. I'm going to, I'm going to look to my right, see if there's any adjourning motions. I do not see any to my right. I will now, Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I have one that's quite personal to me. It's a member of my family. Laverne Wyman Nielsen, who is the grandmother of my husband, Sean. If you attended my wedding last summer, you no doubt remember Grandma Laverne, who managed to steal the show for me and Sean on our wedding day when she gave the benediction. She had a wit and a heart and a love and a perspective that made it almost inevitable that she was going to steal the show the moment we put her on the stage. She passed last Friday afternoon at 3:05, surrounded by her family and friends, after about a 10-day battle with cancer and cirrhosis of the liver. Laverne, when I started dating Sean and married into his family, it's a very big and loud family, and it can be very intimidating. And when that happened, I met Laverne, and I fell in love with this woman immediately. It had been at least 10 years since the last of my grandparents had died, and this woman and I just absolutely bonded. She loved the first day we got together. We had dessert before we had lunch, and then we had Chipotle, which she and I clearly had a bond once she picked that restaurant. And she just always was filled with life and love and perspective, despite having a pretty rough life. She was born in San Francisco in 1924 to a single mom, and she was shuttled around to a lot of different places. She lived for a while at the Boulder Dam work camp with an uncle. She was in sort of a convent for a while, and never really knew her dad. And she had the heart of a performer. She took classes at the Pasadena Playhouse and then was about to ship out with the USO when World War II ended. Her passion for teaching surpassed her passion for acting, and she became a teacher for a very long time in Redondo Beach and in Torrance, and absolutely loved teaching. She, while teaching, she was raising 4 children as a single mom in the 50s and 60s. Her teenage daughter, Julie, back in the 60s, contracted a form of cancer. And Laverne, pretty much by herself, nursed her to health, or nursed her during her illness until her death. And then because of the way things were then, with worker protections then, she had to go back to school and teach the very next day. When she retired at age 60, she decided to live a different life. She quit smoking, started exercising, participated in the Senior Olympics, took a bike tour of Holland twice, and just devoted herself to her family and her grandchildren. She lived out in Sun City, Menifee, out in the desert, and she did her best to try to share her progressive views with a very conservative community. She loved even the conservatives, but man, she would have been so proud to see what we did today. My last conversation with her about a week and a half ago is she was asking, what are you doing about homelessness? What's going on with the minimum wage? She was so thrilled by it. Despite all that tough stuff in her life, though, losing her daughter, being a single mom, not really having a parents raising her, she always was optimistic and full of life. She was always looking at what was good. She was always trying to find the next adventure, always looking for the next laugh. Up until a week before she died, she went swimming every day. She played cribbage. She was the most tech-savvy 91-year-old I ever met. We got her a Kindle, and then she quickly wanted an iPad, and she read 2 or 3 novels on it in the New York Times every day. She was something else. It was about a week before Mother's Day when we found out she was ill. And in classic Laverne style, she didn't want chemo, she didn't want surgery, she didn't want treatment. She just wanted to go quickly or quietly and surrounded by her family. And when we saw her a week before Mother's Day, I was like, oh, she's feeling good. She's got 6 months. And then a week later on Mother's Day, she started getting very tired and declined fairly rapidly over the next 4 or 5 days. In time, though, for all of her kids and most of her grandchildren to get to her bedside and be with her. In her last couple of days, a day or 2 before she died, she asked Sean, she said, "Sean, am I dying?" And Sean said, "Yeah, Grandma, I think so." And she said, "Okay, well, go make me a cup of coffee." And he did, and she enjoyed it. On Friday afternoon, around 3 in the afternoon, she passed, just as her kids were singing her songs around her bedside. And she was a remarkable woman, and we all miss her dearly. And she would have been tickled that we're adjourning in her memory today. And I just want to thank you for joining me in that. In memory of Laverne Wyman Nielsen, she leaves 3 children, Michael and Stephen and my mother-in-law, Roxanne, as well as 8 grandchildren, Sean, his sister Justine, Julie, Jake, Casey, Lacey, Scott, and Reese Nielsen, and 3 great-grandchildren who knew her as Nana No-No. May she rest in peace. Thank you.
And you were right, Mr. Bonin. At your wedding, she did steal the show.
She did.
I don't remember you. I remember her. Looking to the left, are there any more? Seeing no more adjourning motions, members, this meeting is adjourned.